decided to engage all planets, inhabited by intelligent beings, in a battle to the death. The losing planets would be immediately erased without a trace. Our MC's name is Jihan, and he has acquired the SSS-ranked martial arts skill of a god, but he has not been able to fully unlock its potential. The rest of the humans were too weak and lost the battle against the orcs. Only our MC survived, but Earth still lost. Only Jihan remained, whose skill resisted deletion. This unique ability caught the attention of the gods, and they decided to give him a second chance to unlock the full potential of his skill that allows him to level up many times faster than others. He also gained access to an achievement store where he can buy unique items and gain new abilities with the points he earns. When Jihan startles awake, the first thing he hears are the muffled voices of a television screen. He groggily wakes up and tries to remember what happened. The last thing he remembered, reading from his system, was that he would be returned to the League's first entry era. He takes a moment to check his surroundings and immediately recognizes exactly where he is. He's at the top of the building he used to live in. In 2020, in South Korea, there were no monsters destroying the streets or life-threatening games going on, and kids even played on the sidewalk imitating the Sword King, Yoon Sejin. Jihan realizes that he really was teleported back to times of peace, with no warning, just to make sure. He calls for his status window to see if his abilities have been reset, as well he has been returned to level 2, at the point where he first entered the League. He has no idea what's going on. Then there's a chance that he can change the future, and he must change it so he can protect everyone this time around. With the knowledge of the end of the game, he will make sure that everything is different. This time in the year 2020, Korea had a solid standing, and they had someone who topped the charts in terms of strength. Among the world's top players, there were 11 considered to be the best, and among these 11 players, there was one defending third place. He is a man with dazzling strength that can take out a dozen players with a single attack. That man is the Sword King Yoon Sejin, and he is the reason that Korea had an unshakable hold as one of the strongest countries in the world. He is the pride and treasure of Korea. At least they were able to do that, until the day that Jihan had coincidentally been reincarnated. On that day, Yoon Sejin personally announced that he has decided to change his name to Ryuhei and naturalize as a Japanese citizen. It should have been a normal day in July 2020, but on that day, Korean BattleNet received the biggest shock in its history. They went from holding the higher ranks in BattleNet to facing repeated defeats, and eventually, they fell through the ranks within the League at a frightening pace. People blindly hoped that there wouldn't be a huge change within the rankings, and they thought that there were still a lot of bright and promising young people in the country who can help Korea at least remain in the top 20. With that kind of defeatist mindset, it's no wonder they failed so badly. No one appeared to make up for Yoon Sejin's absence, and things only got worse over time. Things would have been different if there were a little more time, but the battle net was way too brutal. Once the Space League started, things became way more serious in the beginning. The battle net was treated like a game, but the Space League turned it into an all-out war for survival. If someone lost their life in the game, then they would also lose their life in reality. Monsters also appeared in countries that fell to the lower ranks, and a one-sided massacre would take place in those countries. After Yoon Sejin left and Korea fell to the lower ranks, it was eventually destroyed. Those who had survived gathered and began to say that if the Sword King had stayed, then Korea would have had a different ending. That's how important the Sword King was. And to top it all off, he is Jihan's brother-in-law. To vent out his anger, Jihan smashes a family picture of Yoon Sejin hanging in the living room. Jihan still wonders why his sister would love someone like Yoon Sejin, and how different things would have been if she were still alive. It's great that he came back to the past, but right now his stats are way too pathetic. In his younger years before the Space League, he spent all his free time drinking and gambling away his money. He didn't even know just how incredible his gift was at the time. A gift is a special talent. given to a player once they reach the age of 18. And since Jihan was unlucky enough to receive the lowest ranked gift, an F rank, he used his ability to predict the winner in games, and gambled as a living he didn't know back then just how valuable his skill would end up being, since it's a skill that reveals itself after its awakening. That aside, though, that doesn't change the fact that his stats are horrible, and that these kinds of stats should belong to a level 1 player. He ended up drinking an experience potion, thinking that it was alcohol, and that made him level up. Weirdly enough, though, he also has a lot of achievement points, aside from the fact that they are useless and not worth any money. Jihan is pretty sure that he didn't accomplish anything before he entered the league, so it's weird that he has all these points. Because he regressed for now, though, and something in there immediately catches his eye. It's an achievement points exchange coupon, which gives special benefits to the last survivor, who chose to challenge again. Obviously, this was made specially for him, and it's a rank X item, which means it's incredibly useful and rare. He uses it immediately, and the system activates an achievement store for him. The store has things that are exclusive to him for sale, and it can even be upgraded. With a certain amount of achievement points, he will most likely get more options to choose from if he upgrades, and he needs to buy something that he can start using right away. There's not a lot of choices in the store, so he gives in and tries upgrading it. The level 2 expansion doesn't give anything particularly useful, so he upgrades it to level 3, and once again, it's not very useful to him, with only 50,000 points left. If he upgrades the store to level 4, then he will only have 10,000 points left. The higher he upgrades the store, the more expensive it will be to upgrade again. So he's only got 2 choices. He can either buy all the items that are available to him right now, or gamble his points and upgrade to level 4. He has always been a hardcore gambler, so the choice is obvious. He upgrades his store to achievement level 4, and immediately his actions pay off. The next level unlocks an item called Urgent Restoration. It allows him to repair other items, from a faulty state to a perfect state. Good outcomes like these are why he just can't stop gambling. How can he possibly stop when he keeps hitting the jackpot over and over? Now that he has gotten this god-tier ability, it's time for the real test of his abilities. He heads to a room elsewhere within a massive penthouse and uses his thumb to unlock access to a special area. That aside, there's no reason for him to complain about a free gift like this. He opens up the inventory of the BattleNet connector and finds exactly what he was looking for. It's an item called Dongfeng Shua's Spoil Brush, and it's a rank item that even the inventory describes as useless. But with a little assistance from his new Urgent Restoration tool, he's able to repair it and turn it back into exactly what he wants. The rank Spoil Brush becomes an SS rank item that holds a link to the martial god. Before he can admire his handiwork, though, a notification pops up. There's only 10 seconds left before he will be summoned to the arena, so Jihan has no time to waste. He calls for his status window and uses the brush to mess with his stats. The reason that he was able to rise up and become No. 7 in the world in his past playthrough was because of an ability that eventually LED him to being called. The Martial Saint, this unique stat combines his strength. The brush was abandoned because it was spoiled, but thanks to it, he can finally start his awakening. He finishes writing just as the countdown ends, and he's forcefully logged in and summoned to the BattleNet League. The mission of this Bronze League tutorial is survival, and the players are meant to survive against monsters of the Colosseum, along with 100 other players. Once half of the players remain, the survival game will come to an end and the winners will be decided. Jihan Hurdle checks his status window as soon as he's summoned. He obtained martial power, and thanks to it, he even gained 1,000 achievement points as a reward. This is just the first step in his ultimate goal of getting the nameless divine art. But with just this upgrade, he should easily be able to breeze through the Bronze League. The system also warns him that he is connected to the BattleNet without a connector, so because of that, he will suffer 100% of the pain in the game. Jihan remembers this from before the Space League started. During the tutorial period, people were able to reduce pain by buying connectors. The one that his brother-in-law, Yun Sejin, used was a high-end product that reduced pain by up to 99%. Jihan plans to make good use of that later on, but for now he has to manage without it in the game. The achievement menu opens, and it reveals to him that he has a limited quest. He is to achieve number 1 in the tutorial, and as a reward, he will be given 1,000 achievement points. This didn't exist in his past life, but clearing this quest will be easy for him, thanks to the help of martial power. The game eventually starts, and not even a second after the notification is given, someone rushes at him from behind with his sword raised. The surprise attacker looks like he's rushing to catch a newbie off guard and get a free and easy kill. But he's surprised when Jihan manages to easily stop the attack with nothing but 2 fingers. The man can't even pull his sword back, and Jihan turns to him. Then he thanks the man for being generous, enough to give away the first kill. This is easily the most enjoyable content in the game, and that is the ability to mercilessly slaughter people. Another thing in the world that completely changed with the introduction of the BattleNet is the addition of guilds. Guilds are groups of people that train and manage players, and everyone around the world is incredibly interested in the BattleNet because of that. Each country put their resources into fostering players, and well-known enterprises also aggressively invested in the growth of players, allowing large and small guilds to be established in South Korea. Thanks to that, Korea has been able to train strong players early in the league. The Gangnam Bronze League is a place where rising stars of each guild made their debut in this particular Gangnam League match, and he considers himself to be luckier than anyone else, which is managed by the Divergent Group. This famous guild is known for having many rising stars, and the ordinary young man, Do Hyokyu, was able to join this impressive guild after obtaining a rank gift agility. Only a small minority of people can obtain a rank gift, and thanks to it, he's sure that he can make it into the top 50. Now, the first step is finding out who his opponent is going to be. His eyes scan the crowd, and all he can see are powerful knights, brutish warriors, and scary-looking monsters. Do Hyokyu makes the brave decision to completely ignore them and turn away as if he didn't see anything. After all, staying alive is the most important thing for survival, and the other players are staring at him as if they can smell his fear. If he gets eliminated from messing around right off the bat, then that would be absolutely embarrassing. Looking around, most of the players seem to be from major guilds, and they all have good equipment. Being here doesn't even feel like being in the Bronze League at all. Among the crowd, though, he notices someone that looks out of place among all the other rising stars. He's wearing a wife-beater top, sweatpants, and he has no shoes or any equipment to speak of at all. Do Hyokyu wonders if this person even plans to participate in the Bronze League at all, or if he was summoned by accident. He must be a newbie that got summoned by mistake, which also means that he's a free. Easy Kill Hockey readies himself and prepares to strike. As soon as the system notifies that the game has started, Hockey wastes no time and rushes in to deliver the finishing blow on the unsuspecting newbie. Except to his utter surprise, not only did the newbie block his attack, he did it with 2 fingers. It makes no sense that someone who seems so out of place could keep up with his rank agility ability. Before he can process what's going on, Jihan flings him aside with barely any effort, tossing him to the side like he's completely lightweight. Jihan mocks him for coming to participate in the Bronze League with a simple gift like agility. That pisses off Hyokyu, who can't accept that. His rank ability is being insulted by someone who looks like a beggar. Maybe Jihan is only full of himself because he managed to block just 1 attack. In that case, Hyokyu plans to teach him a lesson by charging up his fastest speed. It looks like the player is planning to come at Jihan with all he's got, and RMC is forced to admit that even his speed from before isn't something to take lightly. Hyokyu comes charging and going straight for Jihan's neck, but the relentless attacks aren't done, and Hyokyu comes at him with another attack and another and another. All of his attacks are easily dodged. But that doesn't mean that Jihan is having the best time. He's used to fighting with higher stats. But now, his mind has to adjust to being back in a level 2 player's body. However, even with that, as someone who has experienced countless fights, the trajectory of his ambitious attacker is just too simple. An obvious Hyokyu comes in for another large attack, causing the sword to go flying in the air. Then before Hyokyu can even process what just happened, Jihan jumps into the air, catching the sword and then stabbing it through his opponent's neck, finally ending the fight. Hayuki falls to the ground, and as his body fades away in defeat, he promises that the next time that he and Jihan run into each other, that he's going to win. That causes Jihan to sigh in grief. And it really puts into perspective how nice this world is. No one is going after the monsters in the BattleNet. Because of that, most people avoided the monsters entirely, especially in this situation where the monsters are mobs like orcs. Going after them would be completely stupid. But it looks like the system likes stupid because it gives him a new quest to kill all 30 orcs in the Colosseum. Hunting monsters is definitely inefficient, but he's getting 500 achievement points as a reward, which is 5 times more than the reward he got for getting the first kill. If that's the case, then there's no reason not to go after the orcs, since there's nothing holding him back. He decides to go all out on the unsuspecting monsters, the orcs at first. Can't believe that there's an almost naked human running towards them at full speed. But they quickly recover and gather together to try and kill him. The first 2 that are closest throw their axes at him, in hopes of cutting him down before he even gets close. But Jihan is able to catch the axes with ease. That causes the rest to go into a frenzy. But Jihan is already on the move, running right past all of them, and appearing right in the middle of all of them. Then with one swing of the second axe, several orc heads go flying, and the remaining 25 don't look too pleased by his actions. They're even more motivated to kill him now, but they are just no match for him. He moves faster than they can keep up with, and his battle experience shows up heavily here. Another orc rushes in with a spear, determined to kill Jihan quickly. But his weapon is easily caught and broken, as our MC goes in to cut him down with his axe. Except the axe unexpectedly breaks as he tries to attack the orc. That fills the orcs with a bit more confidence, and they think now that his weapon is broken, they should have an easier time dealing with him. Then he jumps into the air and grabs the weapons that went flying from the orcs' hands. As they were pushed back, and in a second, the slaughter continues, and more orcs continue to fall until there's only one left. The last orc is too frozen to move, but at this point, successfully clearing the quest. Leveling up mid-game is unusual, since experience is usually calculated at the end of the game. And if there's one stat that he wants to give the most priority to, it's martial power. Martial power combines 3 stats together. And even if other people were to upgrade one of those stats at a time, a single level in martial power is able to double your abilities, at minimum. There's also another reason why martial power is special to Jihan, and that's because once he hits level 30 in martial power, then he has a chance to obtain the unnamed divine arts. If he wants to get stronger, then he has to obtain the unnamed divine arts as soon as possible. Normally, you would have to gain an assortment of battle, experience, and training in order to increase the martial power stat. And points can only increase the maximum growth rate, however. This time, for some reason. Then his hope of becoming the strongest might actually be possible. And this is still a battlefield after all. An archer shoots an arrow at him, which he easily predicts and manages to dodge. The archer is partnered up with a warrior in fancy-looking equipment, and they're both clearly looking down on Jihan. The girl tells her partner to wrap things up quickly, and the confident smiles on their faces show that they think they're going to deal with him very easily. It's not unusual for 2 people to team up in a battle. This survival game is intended to be PvP, but there's no rule saying that participants can't work together. The logo on their clothes also shows that they are in one of the top 10 guilds in Korea, the Turtle Guild. The trouble with this matchup is the pairing of the 2, a warrior and an archer, is a combination of short and long ranged attackers. The fact that they are in the same team also means this won't be easy for Jihan to take care of by any stretch of the imagination. A notification pops up, informing him that there are only 60 survivors left, and the tutorial is about to end. So many people have died already, and with the tutorial about to end, all Jihan has to do is dodge the attacks from the pair, and he should be able to survive till the end. But if the 2 of them came to specifically kill him, then he must look like an easy target to them. As Jihan tries to figure out what to do with these 2, they're so confident in themselves that the warrior asks the night out for dinner if he kills Jihan just before the fight starts. Jihan checks the scoreboard and sees that he is barely in first place. With 4 kills, that means that if he manages to kill these 2, then it will guarantee his rank. To start off, he goes after the archer first, killing her, while she's still in the middle of being hit on by the warrior. With his martial power stat currently at level 6, they have no chance against him. The warrior is in shock that his partner died so easily. Luckily for the warrior, his thick B rank armor managed to save his life, and he thinks that Jihan won't be able to pierce through it with such a poor weapon, but Jihan keeps going, slowly creating a hole in the same spot with his continuous strikes, until the gap is just large enough for him to take out the knife. Elsewhere in a dimly lit office space, a woman watches a replay of the match with a cup of tea in her hand, right as Jihan cuts down the warrior. This woman is Lee Haeon, the 3rd Division, head of the Department of Human Resources in the Divergent Guild. She thinks it's a relief that Jihan wasn't summoned. Right beside her bodyguard, Lim Gyeong, who was in the same match as Jihan and managed to rank 2nd place. Gyeong isn't thrilled about basically being told that she's weaker than someone, but Hyun still advises her to try and avoid fighting with a maniacal newbie. However, as Gyeong watches the video playing on her boss's monitor, she can't help but notice that she has definitely seen Jihan somewhere before. Lim Gyeong of the Divergent Guild is known mainly for possessing an S-rank gift. She is the Divergent Guild's high potential prospect, and her performance in the Bronze League lived up to everyone's expectations. She should have ranked 1st just as everyone hoped for her, and she most likely would have, if it hadn't been for Song Ji-han's appearance. The Turtle Guild scout team can't help but yell in shock as he realizes that not only did Ji-han beat some of their most promising members, but he also managed to rank 1st at only level 2, without any proper gear or affiliation to any group. He showed up in a wife-beater top and sweatpants, and somehow managed to acquire 6 kills without any weapons. Amongst the players in the world, the man himself relaxes back in his living room as he checks his rewards. For achieving 1st place in the Bronze League tutorial, managed to go from level 3 to level 6. His level up speed is most likely due to the fact that he's still at rookie level, but it's a nice bonus regardless. He didn't gain any GP, which is the currency used by the system, but he did get stat points from his level up, which he threw directly into martial power. Once again, his martial power increases going from level 6 to level 9. He also acquired a nickname, which gives him an additional point in all his attributes, as well as an additional 20% experience boost. The nickname only applies in Bronze League, but it's fine in its own way. But there's still one more thing he gained by reaching level 5. He unlocked a class advancement, which means that he can now pick a class. When choosing a class, brings to the table there are 4 options to pick from Warrior, Archer Mage, and Support. In his previous life, he picked the Warrior class, and since he already has expert level knowledge of it, picking it again will make his life easier. But in his achievement store, there's an option to buy an extra class slot. With that, even if he chooses a different class this time, he can always add the Warrior class later on by buying it. Thanks to this, he doesn't need to choose the Warrior class first, and he can try out something else. His finger hovers over the options as he decides which one he's going to choose, and then eventually he picks one. Later on, he's summoned to the Bronze League, Gangnam area again for another mission. This place is filled with thousands of zombies, crowding around each other, and the mission this time is defense. The zombies are at the bottom of castle, and the players are to kill the zombies and protect the crystal resting at the top of the castle walls, while also doing their best to survive against the zombies. There are multiple towers, and the battle will continue until only 5 towers remain, and she stares down at the zombies in disgust. They may be in a game, but that doesn't make the sight of decayed corpses any better. Behind her, the other players spawn in, and they seem to be familiar with the map as well as the mission. One is an archer from the LK group, and he has strong looking B grade gear. Another is a mage, and he doesn't seem to be affiliated with any guild, but his equipment is impressive, and he doesn't look too bad for this level. These 2 look like good partners to work with. But the most important person in this particular mission type is the support. The defense mission is a long-term fight, and the support is the person that guarantees that they will be able to survive that fight. He's summoned last, and as the light clears, Gyeong is surprised to see Song Jihan appear. As the support of their group, he decided to choose the support class. As he selected the option, the system itself advised him that the class isn't compatible with him. The reason he chose the support class, even though it is so bad for him that the system has to reconfirm his decision, is because the class gives him a new ability called Divine Power that is unlocked after choosing the support class. Divine Power is something he desperately needs if he wants to grow another unique stat, but it's one of the harder abilities to grow. That's because it's not as easy to boost with training, like other stats, and there's no way to raise it other than to invest extra points in it. He would never waste his valuable points on anything else. Then, why did he choose the support class and gain the Divine Power stat? That's because he knows of another way to enhance Divine Power, and it's a method that people aren't aware of at all. The secret lies in his shiny new pipe. The other players are just as surprised at the fact that Jihan is a support as Gyeong, and the mage in particular doesn't hide his frustration with Jihan's superior outfit and gear. He yells at Jihan for choosing not to have better equipment, and even emphasizes how expensive his own gear is in comparison, thinking that Jihan having bad gear is because he is incompetent. The archer tries to calm the mage down before he says something that's way out of line, but the mage doesn't want to hear any of it. He calls Jihan filthy, and even says that he doesn't want to play the game with someone so bad, who will clearly mess up their team. However, she snaps out of it as she hears the mage cry out in surprise, and our MC is holding him in the air like a toy. Then, without a second thought, he tosses the mage over the edge of the tower, straight down towards the hungry zombies below. The mage has been complaining this whole time that he doesn't want to play with Jihan, so our MC helped him quit the game personally. The mage responds after death, and as soon as he reappears at the top of the tower, he begs Jihan for forgiveness and promises to do his best for the team. The man groveling at our MC's feet is Kim Gyuk, and the reason for his sudden change in behavior is our MC's disciplinary techniques. When a person spawns in the Bronze League defense game, they are given a total of 3 lives. Kim Gyuk, who resurrected right away after being mercilessly tossed off the side of the tower, was immediately given another skydiving lesson by Jihan as soon as he respawned. Thanks to that, he has only 1 life remaining, and if he were to die one more time, then he would be kicked out of the game and get last place. That's why he's currently begging for his life at the feet of our MC, hoping that he's not thrown down to be zombie lunch again. He needs to avoid getting last place, because if he does, then his level will fall as a penalty, will disappear as a consequence, especially since he was so intent on raining down attacks in his last life as soon as he spawned. He's a precious resource that they wouldn't want to lose, but all his yapping has reminded Gyeong of who he is. Kim Gyu-hyuk used to be affiliated with one of the 10 great guilds in Korea, and he was respected by all. But he fell 4 times in the silver promotion leagues, and after that, he just went around starting fights. In other words, Gyeong considers him a loser. The archer is in support, and it's clear that he just wants their team to make up. But on the inside, Gi-hyuk is still angry about being killed twice, but he's not even given a chance to finish his internal revenge monologue, as Jihan grabs him by the collar again and tosses him off the side of the castle walls one last time for the sheer audacity of asking for an apology, even though he was the one who started the fight. And with that, their mage is gone, leaving their team down by 1 man. The zombies continue to climb the tower, and coincidentally, the team closest to them has another fire mage who makes quick work on the zombies on their side. That's why they needed a mage. And the archer scolds Jihan for not trying to meet the mage halfway. This quest has a link quest, and it requires him to get first place in the 10 Towers mission, and also kill 1,000 zombies on his own for a total of 4,000 achievement points. But he doesn't want to lose out on 3,000 points. So far, Jihan has only done what he wants. And despite his impressive specs, he's just a support class. From what Guyan can tell, there's no reason for her to try and bring him into the Divergent. Gil the Archer isn't nearly as calm as she is, though. Unexpectedly, Jihan is happy to hear that, since he will be able to take out all the zombies alone if they let him go ahead without their help. Gyeong tells him to stay behind her while she takes the front. She sees the game is already lost, but she at least feels the need to take responsibility as a player. But Jihan tells her that it's alright. He plans to take everything in the front, while the archer and Gyeong protect each other. A zombie finally manages to reach the top of the tower, and it's a blood zombie, which is different and stronger than the other zombies. Its head is made of liquid, so they can't kill it with physical attacks. Well, they can anyways. Jihan doesn't care about the rules of the game. The zombie leaps in, and Jihan readies himself with the spear and with one clean hit, kills the zombie by smashing its head in. Gyeong notices from the pieces of flaming zombie flesh that fall around that. Then Jihan must have access to divine power. More zombies make their way to the tower, and Jihan continues to fend them off one by one with his staff. So far, he has only killed 6 zombies out of 100, and he has a long way to go. As more zombies climb up the tower, Jihan continues to take them all on solo. As he kills over 24 zombies, he starts to realize that his biggest issue will be the blood zombies. Physical attacks don't work on them. So when he sees them, he releases a small amount of divine power, which allows him to kill them all at once. And it's hard to deny that our MC really is a pro, even though he's a jerk Gyeong. On the other hand, is too stunned to speak and can only watch Jihan fight with awe. He's controlling divine power freely and fighting without wasting it. His level of control is impressive enough. But what impresses her the most is Jihan's skill and precision. Within a matter of minutes, Jihan has managed to kill over 200 zombies, which allows him to meet a hidden condition called an otherworld's faith. That increases his divine power from level 6 to level 7. This is his other method to increase his divine power, and it looks like it works. He can increase his divine power through the use of sacred objects. In 2010, when the Earth's tutorial first started, sacred objects were traded at high prices, as it was said that they contained secrets. But after 10 years, otherworldly divine items also had no merit, and many people didn't even know about their existence, however. There was one person who knew about it, and that was Sophia. And divine power, in general, can be increased by using divine items from other worlds. Although it doesn't work after finishing the tutorial, it was the method that she used to become a saintess. She would hold on to the other world's divine item and pray for a long time. Eventually, after a while of doing that, she would get divine power. The conditions required for each divine item are slightly different, and it's by no means an easy method. Sophia was able to monopolize all the divine items to herself. This is high-quality information that no one knows about, so she definitely used this to her advantage. But despite how valuable this information was, there was also someone else who was constantly purchasing otherworldly, divine items, which means that there is one other player who knows this information. After Jihan regressed, and there, he found all the otherworldly divine items that had been purchased. All their divine power has all been drained. So they are all empty. That means that the identity of the other player, who had been collecting otherworldly divine items, was his elder sister, Song-ji, along with Yoon Seo-jin, the Sword King Ji-ya. His sister was South Korea's best support and a hero. How she died is a whole other story entirely, though. Out of all the otherworldly divine powers that she left behind, Jihan found a steel pole, which has been reduced to an E-rank item. According to the item's description, it should be especially perfect for breaking zombie skulls. After using it for so long, though, it has been reduced to an F-rank item, and there's not much divine power left to absorb, but still tough. So it's the perfect weapon for hitting things with. Gyeong continues to marvel at his amazing physique and his unbelievable level of control. The archer notices that another tower has fallen, and they were in the top 5. But in his excitement, he fails to notice a zombie sneaking up on him. Gyeong draws her blade quickly and cuts down the zombie before it can attack the archer. From her stance and the way she uses her sword, Jihan immediately recognizes who she is, and she was famous for being the interim Sword King. She died at the hands of the former Sword King himself, who now goes by Ryohei. It seems like he managed to meet a pretty important person early on in this new life. Gyeong calls him attention and asks if she can join him in the fight. If they fight together, then they can aim for a higher ranking. There's still a long way to go, and not a lot of time left either. If it's the Plum Blossom Sword, then she'll be fine without him. But one of his quests is to earn first place in this mission. Jihan decides to leave the zombies, climbing up the tower to her and the archer, and then he leaps off the side of the tower, before they even have a chance to notice what he's doing. As he falls to the ground, he gathers up all his divine power into the staff and slams it into the ground, causing a massive explosion of energy that blows all the zombies away. Thanks to Jihan's massive contribution, his team manages to place first in the mission, and they emerge as the last survivors. Thanks to that, he accomplishes his limited quest, but he couldn't finish his linked quest of killing 1,000 zombies alone. Before he leaves, his teammates come over to congratulate him on a job well done. He carried them so easily and came out as the MVP despite everything. And the archer is more than eager to team up with him again. But while the archer fawns over out, MC Guion can't help but be shocked at the massive amount of damage that their support did, despite being a level lower than her. She thinks that this has to be some kind of bug. She can't hide just how surprised she is. The archer decides to log out first, leaving her along with Jihan. She takes the opportunity to approach him before he leaves, and even calls him by his name, which surprises Jihan after all. They should have met at this point, but Gyeong doesn't care. With the potential and achievements that he has shown during these past few missions, she can tell that this man is definitely someone they need at the Divergent Guild. As a member of the Divergent Guild, she has to recruit him no matter what. But now that she's staring at him, she ends up accidentally asking for his phone number instead. Suddenly, her calm expression changes to extreme panic. Before she can get her words out properly, though, then he opens his status window and logs out with a quick goodbye. Before she can say anything else, Gaon takes a moment to wonder how exactly someone can forget their own number. Before she realizes that she has most likely just been rejected. He used his American number for a while in his old life, and he hasn't had the time to memorize his Korean number. Since he reincarnated into this new life, there's no way he can ask others what his own number is. So for now, he's just going to have to leave those thoughts for later. The more important thing to think about right now is that he got recruited. It looks like with all his showing off recently, he ended up standing out too much. Now that he thinks about it, he should have probably gotten her number instead. But he doesn't plan on joining a guild right now. For now, he has to focus on getting as many rewards as he can from quests. He managed to raise his level by 2 points, but he can't buy any holy items with just that amount. The divine items he wants to buy are much cheaper in the past than they were in his time, but it's still too much for him. For now, he has to go home and rummage through his sister's storage a little more. He makes it back home and immediately notices someone else's shoes at the door. He immediately realizes who is at home with him, and the shock causes him to drop his bag. Everyone has moments that they regret for their whole lives, and Jihan also has similar regrets. His biggest regret, though, is the fact that he couldn't protect his beloved niece. Say, on his past life, he remembers how strong she was, and how she even told him that she would protect him. And now she's standing in front of him again, alive like nothing ever happened, above everything. He wanted to tell her once again that he really missed her. She wasn't at home when he regressed, because she was with a group living in Jeju. But she was the only one that ended up leaving early, for obvious reasons, because she was born when his sister worked to provide for them. Jihan was in charge of looking after Seiya from a young age. Now her mom is gone, and her dad is defecting to Japan all of a sudden, and changing his name now that everyone else is gone. The only family they have left is each other. Right now, she's the most important person in his life. And all of this happened because of Yoon Si-jin's sudden decision. Earlier, Sia contacted her father to see what caused him to change sides. All of a sudden, and he told her that he had fallen in love. And he calmly replied that he is throwing her away, because that's the condition that his new love had given him, without even another word or a goodbye. He hung up the call and ended his relationship with his daughter, in one move that's incredibly trashy. But Jihan has always known him to be the kind of man. He is an irresponsible renegade that is willing to throw away his only daughter and his whole country for the sake of one girl. Because of that, innocent Seiya was left all alone and in another life, ended up ending her life. Seiya turns around and notices that her family photo has been broken, and Jihan immediately rushes to apologize, thinking that even with what Yun Seojin did, he's still her father, but to his surprise, she reveals that she wanted to break it instead. Then she tells him that she's fine and puts up a strong face. This is always how Seo was. Whether her mom died or her father betrayed her and left, she would always have a bright smile in life, while worrying more about her uncle than herself. But even though he knows that she can take care of herself, he doesn't want her to be like that anymore. From now on, even though she's all grown up, he wants to take care of her and protect her. Seiya closes her eyes and allows him to hug her, but their moment is broken up when she tells him that he's sweaty. Elsewhere in the Seoul metropolitan city, Gangnam-gu inside the Divergent Guild headquarters, Lee Hyun doesn't even try to hold her laughter back. After her bodyguard tells her about her run-in with Jihan, the beautiful Lim Gyeong asked for a man's number and he refused. He used the lame excuse of saying that he doesn't remember his number. Her laughter causes Gyeong to accept that she isn't as beautiful as Lee Hyun seems to think she is. But that couldn't be further from the truth. She just doesn't know how popular she really is. Even the few people that they have walked past can't help but stare and whisper about how cool she is. The two of them head over to the company lounge. They have to recruit him no matter what. And even the higher UPS are pushing her to get him on their team as fast as possible as they are talking. Hyun notices a notification on her phone. But the person hosting the stream is definitely not who they were expecting. It's Song Jihan, and he's starting an impromptu stream, seemingly with no announcements. On the other side, Jihan is setting up the camera while Seiya advises him from off-screen. Gyeong struggles to figure out why Jihan is showing up on a gambling prediction stream, but Hyun is more focused on the title of the stream. Jihan is claiming to be the brother-in-law of the Sword King. The people watching the stream are also confused about the sudden announcement, and comments fly into the stream asking what's going on. The statue behind him is the twin sword statue, which proves that he's in the Sword Palace penthouse. Now that the stream has properly started, Jihan tells Seiya to step back. Then he channels power into his foot and stomps into the ground, cracking the floor below him and causing the pillar below the twin sword statue to shatter. Then he uses his fist to break the statue apart, shocking everyone watching the stream and causing thousands of viewers to flow into the stream. Now that he has made a big splash and caused a lot of people to grow interested in the stream, it's time for him to actually start addressing the Sword King, Yun Sejin's naturalization to Japan. The place he's streaming on right now is called the BattleTube, and it's a streaming system of the BattleNet, and a platform that possesses unrivaled market share in the world, since it is a part of the BattleNet. Jihan can also get quests linked to BattleTube, which include gaining a certain number of viewers, subscribers, and views. Thanks to this, he has another way to gain achievement points by making a splash on the platform. And destroying the twin sword statue is definitely one way to make a splash online. For Seong Jihan, there's no better situation than right now to cash in on all the rewards. As the viewers continue to pile in, he continues gaining achievement points from the multiple milestones he's crossing. Meanwhile, there's also a certain number of commenters that have the same profile. Picture of a black logo with twin swords. These people are the Sword King family. And just the thought of them makes Jihan's eye twitch in anger. That crazy fanatic fan club of UCI Jin is what drove Seiya to her death in his last life. While there are people who supported the Sword King the most, their resentment after he moved on to Japan kept growing, and eventually, those emotions began to gravitate towards Yun Sejin's only blood relative, Yun Seiya. Their terrible words and anger never failed to reach Seiya, no matter how far she ran. But this time, he won't let that happen. If they need someone to point fingers at, then Jihan will gladly become that target. RMC clears his throat and tells everyone to listen carefully. Their former Sword King will not be coming back. As he continues his announcement, people start to recognize him from his past achievements, specifically the bronze tutorial, where he made a huge impact by placing first despite the odds. But the fact that he's still bronze definitely hurts his chances to act like an authority figure. Jihan ignores their conversation and then shows irrefutable proof to the camera, bringing his phone in close to the microphone to play a recording. This recording is from a call between Ryuhei and Seiya, after the Sword King decided to naturalize as Japanese. On the call, Ryuhei clearly announces that the reason he is leaving Korea is because he found someone that he loves. He admits that he's leaving the country all for her sake, and he's even abandoning his only daughter without remorse. This is a condition that his new love gave him to be accepted. Now that the intended message has been passed across, Jihan ends the recording. People are left speechless, but most aren't convinced. To further drive in the point, Seiya comes on camera herself to continue the announcement. She announces that her father said that he will pass down the Sword Palace to her, but she doesn't want to accept the inheritance of someone who has abandoned his country and his family because of that. As she continues her announcement, Jihan smiles as his plans come together beautifully. Half an hour earlier, why on earth would he want to give away everything they have, since they are not selling the building, and instead casually giving it away for free? It would seem like a truly insane decision. But Jihan has to convince her to do this for her own sake, no matter what in his last life. After Yoon Si-jin destroyed Korea by becoming Japan's representative, the anger of Koreans grew so uncontrollably that they ended up confiscating all the assets of Yoon Si-jin, including the Sword Palace that they live in. Seiya had nowhere to go, and she couldn't withstand all the stalking and threats from the Sword King family. At the end of everything, she took her own life. Since this place is going to be taken away anyways, it'd be better to give it away to win Korea's favor and keep Seiya safe. To Seiya, though, he's just a freeloader uncle that drinks all day at home. And he certainly can't tell her that he came from the future either. But he has to find a way to convince her. Surprisingly, though, while he was still thinking about how to get her on board with his idea, she surprisingly agreed to his plan. He had to take a moment to double-check if she's really alright with this, since even to him, his sudden request would make absolutely no sense. The reason she has decided to trust him is because he's not the kind of person that would suggest something like this, for no good reason. More importantly, it's been a long time since Seiya has seen this confident side of him, so she decides to trust his judgment. Thanks to her impressive resolve, he managed to make this situation a reality. That doesn't mean that there won't still be problems going forward. Though the Sword King family is still up in arms, he wants them to keep firing their insults at him and avoid messing with Seiya completely. But this still isn't enough to finish the job. To make sure that everything is perfect, he's going to need to drive one final nail into the coffin. He steps back into the camera's view and calls out Eun Sung-jin. Specifically, he tells them that the reason the Sword King gave for leaving is because of a woman, but the truth is that he's a has-been. Seiya can only watch, since this definitely wasn't in the script from earlier, and she doesn't know what to do. The commoners start going crazy, with some not believing that he would say such a thing, while others can only laugh at the absurdity of his claim. Jihan continues provoking him, claiming that the only reason Yoon Si-jin left. Even Gyeong and Haeon can't help but scream at the things he's saying. Seiya confronts her uncle with the chaos that has started online due to his statements. Both Korea and Japan are in an uproar because of what he said. But Jihan isn't worried. He assures her that nothing will happen, and that Seo should just ignore all the publicity this is bringing them so she doesn't get stressed unnecessarily. Because of his recent actions, Seo can't help but notice that something seems different about her uncle. It's almost as if he became a different person overnight. But it's not surprising that she feels this way. After all, there's no way that he would act normally. After dying and regressing to the past, he asks her if all she saw in him was a freeloader who drinks all day. And Seiya tries to backtrack her words, even though she does think that it's true, that she saw him that way before. As they are talking, the doorbell rings, and Jihan already knows who it is, but he wasn't expecting them to come over this early. Now that things have come to this point, it's time for him to start earning some money elsewhere. In Tokyo, Japan, Yoon Si-jin watches over the news as he sits beside a sleeping woman on the bed. The news recounts the events that have happened recently and states that the relationship between Korea and Japan is only expected to get worse continually due to his naturalization to Japan. It's only gotten worse. since news has now spread that he did all of this for a woman. Now with Jihan, Yin Sejin's brother-in-law, coming out with even more provocation, afraid that he had woken her up. But she assures him that she doesn't need to sleep anymore. She's more worried about him and the hard times that he will go through going forward. But Ryuhei stops her and tells her that she shouldn't call him Sejin anymore. He has taken her name, and that's how he wants to be addressed going forward. This woman, Shizuru, clings on to him and assures him that he's still Yin Sejin, Korea's #1 player, and that truth hasn't changed. But there's a strange power to her words, and it looks like the things she's saying to him have a much heavier ability than just being mere words. Then she pulls him close, and the two of them kiss as she reminds him that she is her. Yin Sejin back with our protagonist. He opens the door, and standing outside is the man that he was expecting. This man is a government official, and it looks like he and Jihan at least know each other a little bit. His name is Park Yun-sik. In his last life, after Yun Se-jin left, the department stopped coming. But it looks like he made such a big splash today that they just can't ignore him any longer. However, even though the government stopped coming, this man still took the time to take him and Seiya into his consideration and took care of them well. Now that the stage is set and all the players have arrived, it's time for Jihan to start taking all the things he will need. The three of them sit down to talk, and Un-sik gets straight to business. He knows that they won't be able to bring the Sword King back, and the government is aware of this as well. But they can't let the citizens know about it just yet. The Korea versus Japan match will be taking place soon, and they need the people to be in high spirits for that. Jihan can see where this conversation is going and tells Un-sik to get to the point and stop beating around the bush. What they really want is for Jihan to return the donation of the Sword Palace, since if the government accepts his donation, it will be official recognition that the Sword King isn't coming back. Un-sik is shocked that Jihan hit the nail on the head so easily. Un-sik confirms what Jihan says, but tells him that they haven't fully given up on the Sword King's return. So instead of completely giving it away, the government would like to suggest a co-sign management instead. That means that the ownership will change to someone else, but they still have joint decisions in the affairs. The government also wants the two of them to continue residing in the Sword Palace, which in the end makes this a win-win for both sides. Un-sik slides a document towards them, which goes into more details about the agreement, and he urges them to read it over and think about it. It looks like they really put a lot of thought and consideration into this. Jihan really was just going to hand it over. But if they are willing to do this, then it's even better for them, however. In exchange, there's a favor that Jihan would like to ask for. Time passes after that event, and yet another match is about to begin. In the BattleNet, a streamer named the Golden Light starts his stream, and viewers immediately come flooding into the battle tube to watch him. The streamer stands proudly on top of the Colosseum statue and welcomes everyone to his stream. The players below start spawning into the match, and Golden Light jumps down to join them. As he continues entertaining his viewers, someone gifts the stream and tells. Everyone else watches in annoyance. As Golden Light dances to entertain his viewers, they definitely aren't as happy to see him in their lobby as his viewers are, and that's because underneath that innocent smile. But he demoted himself to bronze on purpose for the content, calling it deep sea traveling. He doesn't care about the game itself and only cares about having fun, which makes him the pinnacle of a troll. Even though he has demoted himself to the lowest league, his equipment and stats are still at gold rank. So he is known for harassing and killing bronze players who are weaker than him. Now that he's here and his eager fans are watching him expectantly, it's time for Golden Light to search for his first victim. He looks through the crowd of players, and his eyes eventually fall on potential content, eager to interview the man who recently became the talk of the town. At this point, Jihan goes by many nicknames, and people have been showering him with attention. John, on the other hand, is just confused about who this golden boy is. He's obviously a BattleTube streamer. Since the opportunity has come, Jihan might as well start his own stream for his viewers. He completely ignores the shiny boy and summons his own BattleTube window to start a stream. And our bright boy can't help but shake in fear as he realizes that he practically advertised Jihan's stream for free. Now that things have come to this, obsessed username, encouraging him to kill Shang Jihan so that he ends up in last place. The reward for completing this achievement is 2,000 GP. 1 GP is about 1,001. So this is a 2,000,001 quest. The people who started the donation are none other than members of the Sword King family. When Golden Light doesn't immediately accept, other members of the Sword King family come together and continue increasing the reward. It's clear that these people clearly have a grudge against Jihan, but he had no idea it was to this extent. Unfortunately for him, the remaining players are summoned, which causes donations to stop at 42,000 GP. Golden Light is still upset that the GP stopped at under 50,000. One of the Sword King family members agrees to donate an extra 10,000 GP if he successfully defeats Jihan. That finally gets Golden Light to move with determination, and his target is now set. As soon as the match starts, Golden Light sets himself up to charge at an unsuspecting Jihan. He uses one of his skills called Charge, which accelerates a user's body forward at very high speed. He rushes in, and in an instant, he's behind Jihan with his sword raised. This time it's a club that's part of a cooking set, and it's a D-rank extraterrestrial holy item. Jihan is still surprised that despite swinging with all he had, Golden Light's weapon somehow survived the attack. Since things have come to this, Jihan also summons a sword to use out of etiquette. In a matter of seconds, Jihan is able to cut down Golden Light with simple and precise strikes, and the commentators realize that he's using Sword Chi, which normally shouldn't be possible for someone in Bronze League. He's also using White Sacred Flames, which are divine power, but if he's using divine power, that means that he's a support. Regardless of how he did it, Jihan has successfully gotten first blood, and all with a D-rank kitchen knife. Holy item that's also part of the cooking set of divine weapons. However, although he's been killed rather embarrassingly, Golden Light isn't down for the count just yet. He somehow managed to revive himself. Thanks to an item he has called the Crucifix of Revival. This item can only be used once. However, it can't be used during national leagues, promo games, or guild matches. Despite the fact that he has revived, there's no point since the goal wasn't just to kill Jihan, but also make his place last. And since he died, first Jihan can't be in last place. Despite all of their obvious disappointment, Golden Light is determined to make sure that he redeems himself with Saiwen Jihan's defeat. Unluckily for him, Saiwen Jihan is determined to make sure that he wipes the smirk off of this golden boy's face. In a matter of seconds, Jihan takes him out again, unintentionally giving him a double kill. As he walks away from the dying streamer, he thinks about the item that the man used in the future. Nobody used it because the revival process had certain flaws. Today's spectators are elves, and it looks like they are all watching Jihan. Our MC isn't particularly fond of them, since the elves played a big role in humanity's downfall. Right now, there's nothing that he can do about them, though. So the best he can do is focus on dealing with the people right in front of him from the looks of it. The other players are giving him a lot of distance, and it's almost like they're treating him like some sort of outcast. When he turns to look at them, they all run away in fear. It's only normal since he just ripped a gold player apart twice, so they clearly know that they are no match for him. This isn't good news for our MC, since that means that his hunting efficiency will drop. And after he finally found a D-rank holy item too, if he wants to meet the manifestation conditions of these items, he's going to have to fight more. As he's trying to figure out what to do, a notification pops up in his status window. It looks like things are about to turn around. He has gotten a quest to subjugate the goblins that have gathered around the goblin champion. Thanks to this, he should be able to meet his fighting quota, despite all the players running away. In an instant, he's surrounded by several goblins, and it looks like he's completely outnumbered. But in an instant, it's the goblins that are running away from him instead. As he charges at them with terrifying speed, the monsters cry for help. As they are smacked and stabbed with Jihan's cooking equipment, he's supposed to break their heads and gouge their hearts. And he is supposed to do all of that in this specific order, in order to use the items properly. So they can react to him. It's a good thing that he figured all of this out before the end of the game. But with the way things are going, this is taking way too long. If he had learned this a little earlier, then there would have been a few more goblins. left for him to use his weapons on. But at least it's not completely over yet. This beast is the goblin champion, and in comparison to normal goblins, he is way bigger and stronger. Despite its size and strength though, a good smack with the cooking club is enough to send the goblin champion crashing to the ground. Then Jihan takes advantage of that and stabs it in the heart. Despite its size, it's just a big goblin, and with that, the quest has been cleared, and he receives 500 achievement points as a reward, as well as earning 1 divine power in the process. But because he used the items heavily, so he's going to need to catch players instead. They are way too far from him though. So now if they won't come to him, he's going to have to go to them himself. The commentators, who have been quietly watching the stream this entire time, finally come out of hiding to talk about how scary Jihan looks now. But out of all the people watching the stream, there's one person who is way too upset about what's going on his screen. It's Golden Light, who's watching Jihan stream from the outside, and he notices one comment in particular, saying that Jihan is 1,000 times better than him from his fight with the goblin. The system has calculated his estimated stats, and his average strength is about 35. The average of a Bronze League player is 25, and Jihan is somehow 10 points above that. None of this makes any sense. And Golden Light even starts to think that Jihan must be using some kind of hacks. As he lays on the bed, lamenting his failure, he hears screams of terror coming from his monitor. He looks up, just in time to see Jihan smacking someone in the face with his club. In a matter of seconds, Jihan has taken out multiple players at once, and the all-out brawl is entirely one-sided. In a matter of seconds, Jihan has killed countless players with ease, bringing the number of total players down to minuscule numbers. The remaining players realize that this isn't the time for them to be fighting amongst themselves. This is the time for them to come together and beat up this hack user. A mage and an archer are the first to come together and try to take down Jihan, but their attacks are blocked or pushed away with ease. After a while, they stop attacking completely. Once it looks like nothing they do will work on Jihan, they don't even try to fight back anymore and just stare at this beast in disbelief. Before he comes over and puts them out of their misery, Jihan has managed to get a total of 10 kills, and his viewers are going wild. After watching the awesome feat of taking all the players down, thanks to his massive number of kills, the cooking set starts reacting again, and he gains another point in divine power as a result, and the items downgrade once again to F rank, making them practically useless. He also clears a hidden quest, which required him to get 10 kills in the Colosseum. That gives him an additional 5,000 achievement points as a reward. With divine power and achievement points in the bag, Jihan has successfully gotten everything he wanted, but something is still missing. He needs something definite and strong to boost his power, as high as it can go then. He notices that he has gotten an epic quest. That requires him to find the Shadow Queen, located near the spectators in the Colosseum map, and provoke her. An epic quest isn't supposed to appear in the Bronze League. Shadow Queen's interest. A constellation is an absolute being that represents a star, and they're divine beings. In the BattleNet, a constellation's interest is the same as a sponsor, and they help to acquire abilities that a normal player wouldn't be able to obtain. It looks like something that is only possible in the Diamond League is happening to him right now. If that's the case, then he needs to meet the Shadow Queen at all costs. If even just one person is on his side, then the other constellations will also be interested in him. However, with the number of elves staring down at him from the side, will he really be able to find the Shadow Queen among them? Outside the game, though, the world is recoiling at Jihan's accomplishment. So, Jihan's record of 10 kills at the Colosseum was a first in the country. After Yun Sijin, news of it quickly spread across social media communities, and as a result, he gained around 10,000 subscribers, and his streams gather up to 4,000 simultaneous viewers. Those from the Sword King family, who hoped for Jihan's ruin, in turn became his supporters. Now all the resentment was directed at Golden Light, who unintentionally became Jihan's stepping stone to stardom. His reputation has practically gone into the gutter after recent events, and he's struggling to figure out what he should do to fix it, since there aren't many options, and make him BattleTube's best star. Saya can't help but stare at her uncle in disbelief. After the fight she watched in the afternoon, She can't believe that her uncle got so strong. She almost started feeling bad for the other players, since this was basically the same as grieving. So many people also wanted to donate to Jihan's stream, but he had his donation link blocked. That's mostly because he decided to stream out of the blue and didn't set it up beforehand. Since he hasn't set it up yet, Saya advises Jihan to raise the minimum donation fee. It'll be hard for him to focus if donations keep flooding in, so it'd be best to set it to a high amount, so he doesn't get too many donations. Jihan agrees and decides to set it to 10,000 GP, which is 10 million won. Han is more focused on thinking about the Shadow Queen, epic quest that he received. He has to find this mysterious figure and provoke her, but he can't think of a way to find her in such a big crowd. Her attitude reminds him so much of her mother, and Jihan smiles at her, since there's no wrong in it. He gets up and decides to tell her what's been bothering him. He tells her about the epic quest and the Shadow Queen, and even she has no idea who that could be. All they know for sure is that she's in the audience. Saya decides to watch replays of the matches and look for her in the audience. With her on the case, things should move more smoothly, but Jihan still feels bad that he had to ask her for help. Finding the Shadow Queen will be like looking for a needle in a haystack. Now that he has distracted her, though, he should have enough time to take care of the settlements that he has been pushing off. With all the achievement points that he has gathered, there are 3 options for him to pick between warrior, archer, and mage, and out of them, he decides to become a mage. As soon as he adds the new class, he starts to feel a new power flowing from his heart. It's different from divine power, and it gives him access to new abilities. The reason he chose the mage class after the supporter class is because of a unique stat that he can only obtain after having both classes. He told Jihan a lot of unnecessary things, like the fact that he would have recognized Jihan as an American if he had been naturalized earlier. But on that day, he also talked about something unusual. He talked about his skill force. It's not an easy task, and others wouldn't even be able to try it, since Baron is the only player in the world with 2 classes. This is something that no one else can obtain. And the only reason Baron has it is because he has 2 status windows, which is his SSS rank gift. Jihan originally asked if it's all right for him to have this information, but at the end of the day, Baron was confident that he could tell anyone in the world, because he's the only person capable of having 2 classes. He was certainly arrogant, but what he's saying isn't a lie. Force is an overwhelming power that completely dominated space. But now Baron isn't the only one with this ability. Jihan knows of the requirements, and now he has fulfilled them. This ability is what got Baron to first place in the world rankings, despite his terrible control and utilization of it. So if Jihan wants to be prepared for what will happen in the future, then he has to make sure to get this ability for himself, no matter what, to gain the power. He needs to concentrate the divine power into his hands and direct the flow of his mana from his heart to his hands, where the 2 powers can combine. If he can perfectly combine the powers and allow nothing to leak through, then he will achieve it for a moment. It looks like his attempt worked, but the circling power in his hand sends him flying back into the wall. After a short explosion, it looks like he failed this time, and he can't hold on to the power in his hands with strength alone. He must be missing something. The problem is that he can't keep the power in his hands forever. So maybe the problem is where he's gathering the power in the first place, since he can't hold on to the power in his hands. The next best option would be to keep the power in his body instead. If he can combine the divine power, which starts in the upper dantian, with the mana from the central dantian, then he can hold the 2 stable with the power from the lower dantian, anytime they struggle to mix. This should lead to a perfect form where nothing leaks out. He decides to try it out, and the backlash on his body is immense. A system notification pops up, informing him that he has begun attempting the unification of the 3 dantians. However, almost immediately after, a warning pops up, informing him that he has surpassed the limits that he can endure, and if he continues, then he will die. Downstairs, and she gets up to go and see what's wrong. Meanwhile, Jihan is still experiencing the immense pain from trying to fuse the 3 dantians. In order to do so, and fuse divine power with mana to use force, then he has to use strength subconsciously. in order to consolidate them. The conditions for the unification are very strict, and one needs to be able to perfectly use the three, which have very different natures. On top of that, all of the person's stats need to be at least 100 to allow the process to go smoothly. If you're far from these standards, Seo runs towards her uncle's room. As the sounds of his struggling get louder, she reaches his room and surprisingly finds him in good condition. He claims that he was screaming like that because he got a headache, but it's obvious that something much worse must have been happening. She clearly doesn't believe him, even as he tries to play it off like a joke. And Jihan stops messing around once he notices that she has actually gotten agitated as a result of his actions. Suddenly, Seo starts crying as she tells him that she really was scared for him. She thought something had happened to him, which is why she ran to his room in a hurry. Jihan realizes that he may have screwed up. She asks him again if he's really all right. Then he apologizes for worrying her so much. Saya cleans the tears from her eyes and smacks him in the chest, and Jihan watches her leave with a smile, because he's lacking in both experience and level. But even though that is the case, he still managed to get the power that he wanted by fusing divine power and mana. Jihan has now been able to exchange them both for the unique stat, which has forced the connecting link between the three dantians is being maintained weekly. But it's still there, however. Looking through his status window reveals something odd. The number for the force stat is weird. He just got the ability now, but it's starting from level 12. Since the link between the three dantians is being maintained weekly, then the stats for Marshall, Power and Force will have to share their ability values. That means that if he raises his martial power stat by 1 value, his Force stat will also rise as well, and the Force stat follows suit, also increasing to level 14. This is pretty much a cheat code. Having Force alone is a really good stat, but now he can very easily upgrade it however he wants. If these are the perks he gets from such a weak link, then how Amazon will the benefits of consolidating the three dantians be? There's no need for him to push his luck too much. It's an adorable little flame, but he definitely can't use this in battle. The next day, Jihan is woken up by the sunlight entering his window. As soon as he opens his eyes, the system informs him that he has gained 10 divine power, and he cannot obtain divine power from holy items that are D rank and below. From now on, he can only gain divine power from holy items that are C rank and higher. The previous night, he bought 2 items and slept with them beside him through the night, in hopes of getting a power boost from them. However, it looks like his limitations have come to catch up with him. From now on, he's going to have to sell what he has left on the second-hand market to make a profit. He steps out of his room and calls out for Saya to see if she's awake. He gets no answer and goes downstairs to check on her, and finds her sitting on the couch with earbuds in. From the bags under her eyes and her tired expression, it's clear that she pulled off an all-nighter, and she tells him that she spent the entire night looking for the Shadow Queen. Although Jihan feels bad that he had to put her through this, it looks like her efforts weren't totally in vain. She shows him a clip from a channel called Another Species Fan Cam, which is a battle tube channel that focuses on looking at the other species that appear to spectate their games. They use their gift called Scope, which allows them to zoom in with their streaming cameras. Thanks to them, Saya managed to find something interesting in the replay from the match that Jihan was in recently, up in the spectator area, sitting in what seems to be specially made thrones. There are 2 elves that certainly meet the criteria for queens, with their high-ranking appearance. One of these elves specifically is a dark elf, who certainly looks like she holds some sort of royalty. Jihan agrees that there might actually be some truth in what she managed to find, but it's still too early to draw conclusions. On the other hand, is sure that a constellation wouldn't be found so easily. She even offers to edit some of his videos together for him to post to BattleTube. She knows how to make videos from when she watched her dad's videos for fun. The mention of her dad causes Jihan to freeze and think about him once more. During his conversation with Unsik, the government official revealed that he might know the name of the woman that stole the Sword King away. Her name is Ito Shizuru, and she is the possessor of the SSS rank gift, called a woman of matchless beauty. It's possible that Yin Sijin might have fallen for her skill, and that's also what the government thinks. This is a new development for even Jihan, But the crazy revelations don't stop there. Eun-sik warns Jihan that the woman of matchless beauty skill goes beyond just mind control and can even have the ability to mold a person's thoughts. Something similar has happened several times before, where rising stars of Korea end up naturalizing to Japan. It's very possible that there are no limitations on using the gift, but it's like the internet has been wiped clean of any trace of her. It's most likely that Japan is being careful while managing her. Because of that, Jihan can't find anything out right now. But if what Park Yun-sik is saying is true, then Jihan has to try and be pretty careful as well. There's a chance that they have already started moving. Meanwhile, as he's thinking about this, a plane descends into a Korean airport, and on the wing, it's written that the plane belongs to the Neo Self-Defense Force. Eventually, time passes, and it's time for another major event in the small family's lives. Seo waits at the door for her uncle, who seems to be taking his sweet time preparing. If they waste any more time, they're going to end up being late. Eventually, Jihan finishes his preparations and comes out to meet her. His hair is slicked back and styled, and he's dressed in a fancy-looking suit in this getup. He's definitely ready to meet their new guests. The two of them head into the elevator, and on the way down, Saya is visibly shaken. Jihan tells her to relax and not worry about anything, but Saya can't help being a little bit nervous. This is her first time making an official public appearance after her dad's incident. Eventually, they reach the lobby floor of the Sword Palace, and they are met with a large gathering of people. Almost as soon as they exit the elevator, they are met by Park Yun-sik, who tells them that everything Jihan asked for is ready, so they can go in right away and start the procedure. This is the favor that Jihan had asked for back then, when they were discussing the status of the Sword King and his assets. Jihan asked them to organize an auction of the Sword King's collection, where they would sell Yoon Sejin's beloved items and other possessions. The point of this entire auction is to lure Japan over, and Jihan also made sure to choose the specific items of the auction. For that purpose, too, it's likely that if Japan shows up, that is definitely what they will try to take. Depending on the situation, the Sword King himself might step in to try and take the battle connector. No matter what he does, though, the Korean citizens will be forced to face the reality. Yun-sik silently listens to Jihan's plan and notices that it's almost as if Jihan can see into the future. This is their last chance to change public opinion, and because of that, Jihan asks that they have the reporters pay special attention to the Neo Self-Defense Force table as they walk towards the main lobby. These people are her aunts and uncles, and they are here to try and stop her from starting the auction and selling off the Sword King's precious items. They also don't try to hide the fact that they think Jihan forced her into doing all of this. After all, her aunts and uncles got kicked out from the Sword Palace. In the first place, for using her dad's name to defraud other people. She knows that the real reason they are here, all of a sudden, is because they want to take her dad's money. Now that he's gone, she knows what she's doing since all that her dad left is hers, and they have no right to argue over it with her. She knows that there's no point talking to them, and with nothing else to say, she turns and walks away from them, ordering the guards to kick them out as fast as possible, as the outsiders continue trying to fight their way in. Jihan compliments Seiya on how cool she was just now. She really knows how to stand up for herself, despite everything that she has been through. The three of them make it to the lobby hall, where the auction will take place, and the area is already packed with news reporters, as well as the people who are interested in the items. As soon as they walk through the doors, the reporters immediately start taking pictures of him and try to ask him questions. They also bombard Sia with endless photographs and questions, not even giving them any time to answer. Jihan is tired of the constant barrage of questions and uses force to shatter the cameras and stop them from working. Now that the noise has finally stopped, Jihan reminds them that they are currently at an auction event, not a press conference. Then, with everyone finally nice and settled, he prepares to start the event. 3 items have been prepared to be given out for this event. The first is Yoon Sejin's Battle Net Connector, which decreases the sense of pain by 99%. Finally, there is the analysis of battles made by Yoon Sejin himself, an analysis on East Asia's high-ranking players. The Sword King's data is very precious, from the murmurs in the audience. Jihan can tell that no one will want to let go of any of these items. a high-end players. Analysis data isn't something that you can get anywhere. As soon as he's done talking, someone raises their hand from the audience, and Jihan recognizes them immediately. He introduces himself as Takeda Kazuo, a recruitment manager of Japan's Neo Self-Defense Force. He immediately offers 5 billion yen for all the lots in the auction. On top of that, he also wants to request a private meeting with Jihan and Seiya. His intentions are incredibly obvious, and he doesn't even try to hide what he really wants from this meeting. Jihan doesn't want to play those games, and tells the man directly that if there is something he wants to say to them, then he can say it right there in front of everyone. With the recent events that have happened, this isn't really the time and place to accept private meetings. Takeda wipes the sweat from his brow nervously. Then he warns our MC that if he keeps acting so aggressively, then someone else might have to step in immediately. The bodyguard who is silently standing behind Takeda rushes forward in the blink of an eye and places her sword against Jihan's neck. Her name is Shadow, and although she's not comparable to the Sword King, she's still an amazing player. Their threats aren't even well disguised. But Jihan isn't fazed at all by this blatant copycat of Yin Sijin. Everything afterwards happened in a flash. 1 second Shadow's blade appeared in front of Jihan. The next moment our MC punched her clean in the jaw, causing her to stagger backwards. She falters for a moment, but then her anger takes over and she prepares to draw her sword, intent for a fight, but Jihan calmly places a hand on her shoulder and reminds her that the auction is being streamed live through his battle tube worldwide. There's no way that she can swing her weapon while everyone is watching. But Takeda quickly calms the situation down with a laugh and a wave of his hand. Then he personally apologizes for his bodyguard's harshness and apologizes in her stead. But despite that, he still doubles down on his offer of 5 billion yen. And the money must also include the private meeting he asked for. But this time he wants to hear a response to his offer from Seiya. After all, the Sword King's possessions belong to Seiya right now, so she's the real owner of this auction. He walks past Jihan and goes directly to Seiya, informing her that the private meeting is specifically for her. She should want to know where her father is. And Takeda promises that he will answer any question she has about him, as Seiya struggles to give an answer. Takeda is completely sure that she will agree. There's no way she can reject this offer to talk to her own father. However, despite his cockiness, she blatantly declines his offer. The response gives Takeda such a shock that he loses some pixels. He can't believe that she would give up 5 billion yen just because of a private meeting. That's the equivalent of 50 billion won in Korean currency. And if her father is only available for communication through money, the Seiya doesn't want to know anything about him. On top of that, Seiya is a minor, so she has to do what Jihan says. At the end of the day, the rest of the audience sighs in relief, since they thought that these high-value items would be sold to Japan. They can't let their guard down just yet, though. And even though she rejected the meeting, the Neo Self-Defense Force can still offer an absurd amount of money. Takeda takes a small breath and accepts that they have rejected his offer for a meeting. But even if that's the case, he still bids the 5 billion yen for the items anyway. According to him, the private meeting was just an option that Takeda added personally, so there's no need for him to cancel the bid, just because he was rejected. He was told to offer 5 billion from the start by the Sword King, himself on top of that. He also hands Seiya a letter from Yin Sijong that he personally wrote for her. The letter is stamped with a seal from Ito Ryuhei. Jihan knows this man's tactics very well. After all, the Neo Self-Defense Forces recruitment manager is someone that was banned from entry into the U.S. In Jihan's past life, he was suspiciously good at recruiting foreign players, and because of that, he was called Japan's Calamity. There's a high chance that he's deeply related to the player that uses the woman of matchless beauty skill. Jihan will need to be wary of him, but by the terms of the auction. Since no one is able to compete with the price that has been set, then Jihan has no choice but to sign a contract with the man. The atmosphere is tense, and Japan took the items way too easily, almost as if they were promised them beforehand. Suddenly, Seiya steps up to the microphone and starts to speak. She's reading the letter that Ryuhei sent her, directly out to the public, as well as the thousands of people that Jihan is streaming to. He mentions how he heard about her. wanting to give away the Sword Palace, and how disappointed he is in her. Then he says that the 5 billion yen is the last asset that he will give to her, and also serves as the end of their relationship. As father and daughter, as she finishes reading the letter, she starts to cry, confirming that it really is from him because of his handwriting. Jihan looks away as his niece starts to cry on the stage, which is above the mental conquest skill. This must be true for Yun Sejin. To turn away from his daughter so blindly. Jihan always hated the man, but he was at the very least a very good and dependable dad to Seiya. To think that Ryu Hai would do something like this to his own daughter. Then she tells Takeda to relay a message to Ryu Hai. She has received his assets well, and she's glad to cut off their relations. With that done, she starts to realize that ripping up the paper like this will only make trouble for the cleaners. That will take care of the place later. Jihan tells her not to worry, and then uses his force skill to gather up all the paper, before using his fire skill to burn them all. Fire is an obvious mage skill, which makes everyone even more confused about what powers Jihan has. Looking at this powerful man, Takeda can't help but think that he is someone that Japan needs to have on their side. Takeda is not the only one that notices Jihan's talent, though. Other recruiters that are also attending the event rush to pass their cards to Jihan, since they know that he is not in any guilds yet, and they eagerly want to recruit him. Jihan is suddenly overwhelmed by the number of people that call for his attention, and as he tries to fend them off, then she starts to stagger and falls to the floor unconscious. Jihan immediately leaves the lobby area and rushes towards Seiya, as he holds her frantically in his arms. She eventually wakes up and weakly calls out to him. He tells her that she should hold on, while he gets ready to take her to the hospital. But she pulls him closer and whispers in his ear that she's actually faking right now. She thought he was struggling in the crowd, so she decided to put on an act. The guards successfully hold off the recruiters, as Jihan tends to say on the stage. Now that he knows that she is all right, he can breathe a sigh of relief. But that isn't the same for the people still watching. The live broadcast, they watch as Jihan struggles over Seiya, and blame this entire thing on Ito Ryuei, who caused her so much stress with such a heartless letter. Then he helps her stand up, and she confirms that she wants to go back to the penthouse and rest. As they are walking away, Takeda still tries to reach out to him, offering his card and asking if they could be properly introduced later. Jihan doesn't even look at the card, and uses force to grab it from the man's hand and rip it to pieces. Right above him, that's Jihan's response to any meeting with Takeda, and it's not changing. The recruitment leader of the 4th greatest guild in the world just got rejected by a Korean bronze player. There's no way that Takeda isn't incredibly pissed off. He would be anyway if he wasn't a creep. The man puts on a weird-looking smile and rearranges his tie, as he realizes that Jihan really does have true power. A power that can rip a business card out of his hands and tear it to shreds in an instant. He's definitely worth recruiting to Korea, just for that one power alone. Yet he's still a bronze player, which means that he is a rising star that will become even greater in the future. Takeda is even more determined to get Jihan over to his side, no matter what. Meanwhile, Jihan unexpectedly gets a donation from someone. It looks like the sponsor is Takeda, who went out of his way to donate to Jihan, even though he turned off the broadcast. The way he talks is also way too creepy to say, and Jihan even considers blocking the man, despite the generous donation that he received from him. Their conversation is interrupted by a voice calling out to both Jihan and Seiya. Gaong doesn't look as thrilled behind her. She apologizes for coming to see him all of a sudden, despite the circumstances. Jihan tells her that she's not supposed to have been able to get in unless she is directly involved with them, but she still somehow managed to sneak her way through security. Jihan also notices that her voice seems oddly familiar, almost as if he has met her before. Hyun explains that she has deep ties with South Korea's battle net department, so it's her connections that helped her find her way into this place. Jihan is sure that he has met someone with that kind of behavior before, as she continues to talk. He finally remembers exactly where he has seen her. She is an old friend from his past life who always wore a mask. Seiya notices the stunned expression on Jihan's face and assumes that it is because he has fallen for this new arrival. Jihan, on the other hand, needs to test a theory of his. He quotes something that he has heard from her before in his past life, just to make sure the world is full of possibility. It is difficult to ignore that this is a quote from the great writer Dostoevsky, known for his gambling addiction. He asked her directly if she likes this quote. Gyeong steps in front of Haein protectively and demands to know who exactly Jihan is, so an outsider is not supposed to know about it. That is the last bit of confirmation that Jihan needed. This definitely means that Hyun is American first manager. 00 in his past life was the only other Korean in the guild than him, and she was someone he knew, specifically for her love of drinking and gambling. Despite that, though, she rose to the second-string guild master due to her voice ability. This voice ability was originally a skill that can only give experience buffs, but after the tutorial ended, the growth scope of gift rankings and stats, as well as other aspects of the game, spread quickly. The voice ability became a highly valuable ability, and the person who was the strongest among the voice users was 0. The Divergent Guild somehow managed to recruit both the Plum, Blossom, and 0. That is quite an impressive roster for them to have, even in just the tutorial. Jihan quickly covers up his knowledge of her gambling side by telling them that he saw her in one of his live broadcasts before. He tells them that the chat she sent was memorable, and that's why he had to ask. Haein clears her throat, hoping to move on from this embarrassing conversation as quickly as possible as they continue talking. Jihan can't help but smile at her antics, and that only further convinces Seiya that he must like her, then pulls out her phone and offers it to him. Her goal is clear. She wants to invite him to the Divergent Guild. Seiya can't stop herself from squealing at the new development. It looks like she's about to get a new Anne out of nowhere, who was famously rejected by Jihan in the past. That act would all have been perfect, if not for the fact that Jihan still can't remember what his number is. He turns and asks Seiya if she can give out her number instead. But Seiya misreads it and thinks that Jihan is just playing hard to get. But she falsely believes that Jihan has some kind of big plan. After noticing that she must want to head back, Jihan apologizes to them and asks Hae-young for her business card instead, so he can contact her later. Then the uncle and niece continue their walk to the penthouse, with Seiya falsely believing that her uncle has suddenly turned into a playboy. Gyeong and Hyun start to make their way out of the building, and the bodyguard is visibly shaking. After the exchange, Hyun tells Gyeong to stop holding it and just laugh, since she's about to get really pissed off. As Jihan and Seiya take the elevator back to the penthouse, Seiya points out that she never expected her uncle to wear her dad's clothes, since his own clothes don't fit anymore. Besides, it's not like the clothes did anything wrong. The man is the problem, and as long as it looks good on him, then it's fine. Then she asks him about what he did earlier, telling a pretty woman that he forgot his phone number. Jihan has no idea what she's talking about, and seems genuinely confused, as Seo scolds him for pretending to forget his number. But then Jihan tells her that he really doesn't know his phone number, and he wasn't playing hard to get. Later on, it's time for another mission to start. And this one is yet another tower defense mission, just like before. The goal is to guard the crystal and survive the zombie mob. Jihan isn't mentally ready for this mission, since he spent so long trying to comfort Seiya after she realized that she accidentally interrupted her uncle's chance of getting a relationship. She wrongly assumed that Jihan likes Lee Haeon when he feels nothing romantic towards a gambler like that. Regardless of what he feels toward her, though, he never thought he would zero again like this. Back in his past life, they formed a close friendship because they both came from the same country. Zero was very obsessed with bets and would keep going, even if she lost multiple times in a row. It was during their close times together that he heard her use the quote she seemed so fond of. She also had a facial scar that she refused to erase because she called it a price to pay for making a deal with the devil. They also had a lot in common, despite being just refugees, and it caused them to become friends. The biggest thing they have in common was guilt, self-hatred, and regret of failing to protect the people they love. Jihan bows his head down as painful memories come flooding back to his head. But the flood of comments into his stream snap him back to reality. They also noticed the large sword in his hand, which has to be the first normal weapon he has brought to a mission since he started coming into the BattleNet. This weapon is the C rank, Pontiff's horse slaying sword. And despite being C rank, Jihan managed to get it for unexpectedly cheap. Now that he's holding it though, you can see the reason why it's so cheap. It's way too big and heavy for most people to handle, but for him, it's pretty easy for him to use. They asked him to show them his status window, so they can finally see what his class and stats are. Jihan isn't sure. He wants to show his status window to the public right now, but he can't ignore them since they are regulars. He decides to be straightforward about it, since so many people are curious. And he turns on his mic to talk to them directly. But he promises them that he will do it once he reaches 200,000. But then to make the deal more interesting, he adds one more condition to it, so that they won't complain about it too much. As soon as he gets matched with a troll, right on cue the remaining 3 players are summoned as well. As soon as Jihan sees them, he can't believe his terrible luck. Of all the people to get, that Jihan mercilessly destroyed not too long ago. And the second is the mage, who Jihan treated like a stress relief toy. In his first defense mission, the only person on this team that hasn't been murdered by Jihan, yet at least, is the professional footballer turned player. And he looks really fragile while also having a messy beard. But on top of that, there's also something weird going on. Shiny is the warrior and Kim Doyak is the mage, while Jihan is the support. That would mean that Diego is the archer. Kim Do-hyuk is not too happy about this matchup either, thanks to Jihan taking him out last time. He lost his skill and his rewards from the last mission. The mission is to destroy the crystal and stop Song Jihan for getting first place. And the reward, just like with Golden Light, is an absurd amount of money. The game begins and Diego immediately goes on the offensive. He starts beating the zombies up with a soccer ball, actually impressively, managing to knock each zombie off the tower with precise shots, so he can get more power. Jihan hasn't had enough stats to use support skills before, so he never tried it, but now that his divine power has gotten higher, maybe he can try using it. Now, he gives a strength buff, but that only makes his viewers more confused about what his real class is. Then before he starts the fight, he asks Kim Do-hyuk if he's ready to play properly this time. Golden Light, who is still trying to be Jihan's #1 fanboy, is interested in whether Jihan and Kim Do-hyuk know each other. Right now, though, the mage doesn't have a choice, and it's likely that if he acts difficult again, Diego's first impression of Jihan is that he's crazy, and the mage definitely agrees with that analysis. If Jihan is going to go around doing anything he wants, then he should also be able to go around and do anything he wants. Right, Jihan falls straight into the pit of undead monsters, with a fireball already charged in his hand and waiting to blow, with his newly unlocked pool of mana, as well as his divine power. That increased after they fused together to make force. A small horde of undead is nothing for RMC. He unleashes a rain of divine fire on the zombies waiting for him. Then as he lands, he turns with his comically large sword and slams straight into the ground, releasing a shockwave so large that it kills everything within a small radius. Even Diego can barely believe that a bronze support can be so powerful, while Goldie just marvels in awe at the man that once beat him to a pulp twice. This entire series of feats is being broadcast live, and some of the audience speculate that Jihan might have already killed 100 zombies with just that one attack. Next are the blood zombies, which are larger and much tougher than the regular cannon fodder that Jihan dealt with. They rush at him, but unexpectedly run into an invisible wall that they can't seem to pass through. That's because Jihan is testing out the true, authentic value of the space control ability force. With it, he is able to generate an absolute territory, which is a fancy way of saving that. He can limit the movements of anything that is unlucky enough to step into that territory. And in some cases, he can even control their movements. Most people don't know about this power, but Jihan is very familiar with it. In his past life, Baron, whose control over force was a mess, always used Jihan as a training partner. The two of them would spar repeatedly. And because of that, Jihan often came face to face with Baron's force and was able to completely understand its abilities right now. Jihan is an absolute being who can use mana and divine power simultaneously, while also having access to force and martial power. In terms of raw hacks alone, Jihan is head and shoulders above anyone in the Bronze League. In less than a minute after landing in the horde of zombies, last time he had a defense mission, he couldn't clear the 1,000 kills quest, but this time he's sure that he can definitely go for it. He just has to go a little bit faster, and he should be able to get it done. With each slash of his weapon, dozens of zombies fall at once with ease, and to everyone else watching, this scene is nothing but absurd. His viewers can understand now why he so confidently said that he will keep getting first place in every match going forward. Now, the problem is getting him to 200,000 subscribers, so they can see his status window. The rest of them can only stand by and watch. And Jihan carries the team effortlessly. But one person in particular is suspiciously quiet. Do-hyuk grins menacingly, and the viewers realize that something is definitely wrong. They ask Golden Light to turn around and check on the mage, and Goldie immediately sees what's going on. Do-hyuk stands beside the crystal they're supposed to protect, with a fireball in his hand. His intentions are clear, and it looks like he's about to do something crazy. But just before he does it, he wants to take a moment to taunt Jihan, who's still fighting the zombies. Now that he feels like he's in the clear, he lets out all his anger and frustration that has been building for Jihan, hurling insults at the man and then eventually insulting his niece, Seiya, as well. Even the zombies stop fighting and start shaking as they realize that this is a very bad idea. Jihan remains quiet as Do-hyuk continues to hurl insults and accusations about Seiya, going as far as implying that Jihan has done something terrible to Seiya to make her so obedient. The 55,000 GP reward that compelled Do-hyuk to do something so stupid is a result of the Sword King family, who held a grudge against Song Jihan. If the points are converted to real money, it would be the equivalent of about 55 million and won. And that absurd number is enough fuel to give Kim Do-hyuk the courage to do what he's doing right now. Jihan can also see through the mage's actions, and his intuition tells him that there can only be two reasons why someone so cowardly would start acting up all of a sudden. Either someone is behind him or someone is encouraging him to do this. He must be thinking that since Jihan is far away, that he can quickly destroy the crystal and run away without any consequences. Jihan truly doesn't care about any insults towards him. He couldn't help but recall the terrible nightmare that became his reality. In order to hide a scar that was inflicted on her due to a terror incident by the Sword King family, she hid her face in bandages, and by the time he found her, her body was cold and lifeless. Back then he couldn't do anything for her, and could only cry with her lifeless body in his arms. Now that he's back with the power to change the future, and even they can tell that mentioning his family is definitely crossing a line. However, the moment he earned force, there was something that he realized while trying to unite the three Dantians. He realized that he can use nameless divine arts. His martial power isn't yet at level 30, so Jihan can only intimidate it. But right now that's all he needs. All he has to do is feel the electricity starting from his feet, then channel it into the rest of his body, feeling himself become a thunderbolt. From there, he just has to push himself off the ground, and he can move with lightning-fast speed, using a technique called Flashing Sky Thundersteps, which is a method to break the sky. The Sword King family realize that Jihan is moving, and they warn the mage to hurry up and destroy the crystal quickly. Do-hyuk pushes Goldie back with a fireball before he can get too close. Then the mage charges up an even more powerful fireball, but it's blocked by a football before it can make contact with the crystal. The mage asks what Diego thinks he's doing, but the star soccer player is always serious about any game he plays, and right now he's stopping the mage from ruining the game. More than that, Do-hyuk also cursed out one of their team members, and even went as far as cursing his family. That's something that can't be ignored. Do-hyuk turns to start arguing with Diego, but it's too late for him to do anything else. Jihan has arrived, and he does not look happy at all, but our MC is tired of hearing his voice and uses force to shut his mouth. Originally, Jihan wanted to just blow up the guy's head as soon as he got back, but that would be way too easy. Instead, he wants to dish out a little punishment first before letting him off. Every player has their pain filtered through a connector, and even if Jihan kills the mage, the only penalty is that he will go down by a level. So instead, Jihan will dish out damage so brutal that the mage will think twice before daring to do something like this again. Do-hyuk smiles in relief, since he knows that there is nothing that Jihan can do to inflict pain, as long as he is logged in through his connector. On top of that, he has already lost all his skills, so there's nothing more for Do-hyuk to lose. At least that's what he thinks. Until Jihan places a hand on the man's shoulder, and he starts to feel unimaginable pain. The man screams in pain, and Jihan tells him to calm down, because things are just getting started for the two of them. The man's screams continue to echo through the entire game. Map and whatever Jihan is doing is causing him unimaginable pain. The other two watch Jihan's cruelty in action, but they can't figure out why the mage is feeling so much pain. Usually the battle connector should make it so that nothing hurts, enough to make a person go close. Like that, but Diego quickly figures it out, as Jihan is breaking down the mage's body. That allows Jihan to exploit a bug in the system, where if a support keeps using recovery skills on an ally that is taking that damage from things like poison or burns, then an overload effect occurs, and during this time, a player can feel 100% of all the damage that the connector misses. What kind of skill Jihan is using to induce so much pain? It sends an unknown energy into a target's body that destroys them from the inside. And instead, he starts begging Jihan to kill him. Instead, Jihan wastes no time and obliges to the mage's request, slicing his head off with one clean hit. But as soon as the player dies, Jihan starts looking for the revival location. As soon as he revives again, Jihan continues the punishment. And this time the pain is so intense that Do-hyuk dies from shock. At this point, things have been going on for so long that his viewers are starting to become uncomfortable watching. When Do-hyuk revives again, he doesn't waste time and immediately starts begging for his life. As Jihan starts walking towards him, things have gone on for far too long now, and Sia has to step in to stop her uncle from doing something drastic. If he continues being excessive with this punishment, then he's going to end up losing all his subscribers. Jihan isn't satisfied with the torture just yet, but for Sea's sake, he will stop here. It's still an era of peace, and what he has done should be enough to set an example for anyone else that wants to push his limits. Before he puts the mage out of his misery, though, Jihan has to know who sent him on such a foolish quest. The mage doesn't waste any time and reveals that the person who sponsored him to do this is someone with the username Sword King Family 898. The Sword King family kept sponsoring him over and over, and because of that, he got lost in the money and ended up acting stupidly. As much as that tracks with what he knows about the Sword King family, it's unlikely that one person was able to bet as much as 50,000 GP. That makes it more likely that it isn't one person, but an entire organization that did this. Now that he has the answers he needs, he grabs the mage by his collar and tells him to be thankful that Saya stopped him from going further. Golden Light and Diego both give Jihan 10 points each. Now that the trash has been taken out, Jihan has to go down and take out more zombies. From his memory, he remembers killing at least 920 zombies. He should easily be able to kill 80 more in the blink of an eye. However, when he opens his status window to check what's left, he has already cleared the linked quest. He didn't use the power of nameless divine arts and only used the 3 dantians. So his execution wasn't perfect. However, the results were good, so he can't really complain for now. Goldie tries to buddy up with Jihan and asks if he's going down again, so that they can fight together. But our MC ignores him completely and goes to meet Diego. He thanks the soccer star for helping to protect the crystal, while he made his way over to it, and even offers to meet with the man later, so he can be properly repaid. On top of that, he also has a lot that he wants to discuss with the man as well. Their friendly chat is cut short, though, by a sudden earthquake. It feels like something is trying to break through the earth, and nothing like this has ever happened before. Goldie notices that it feels like something is about to explode, and Diego notices something emerging in the distance. It looks like a giant hand with a mouth breaking through the ground. This is a completely new monster that even Jihan has never seen before, and it looks incredibly ominous. However, it doesn't look like the zombies are being charged up by the hand. Instead, it looks like the monster is chewing up and eating the zombies. Then the mushed up undead in its mouth is turned into a living goop that falls to the floor and grows into a completely new monster that isn't even supposed to show up in a bronze map. It's a flesh golem. It looks like the evil beast is creating these new monsters. Jihan wonders if this is because of the linked quest, and he opens his status window to check the linked quest. Zombie Origin 1 has been changed to Zombie Origin 2, and now his next quest is to deal with the flesh golem without the help of the crystal. Jihan doesn't understand what it means by without the help of the crystal, but before he can even figure out, he gets a system notification informing him that he has received a bonus mission. The other players have also received this quest. They can't even imagine having to fight this massive creature. It also names the massive beast as the Disciple of Destruction. Called Blackhand, they also unlock the blessing of the crystal, which allows them to lessen the gap in strength, enough for them to have a chance to fight back. Even Goldie, who is as strong as a Gold League player, isn't sure that they can win this battle. In fact, he tells Jihan that even gold-level people like him struggle with these sorts of quests. Otherwise, they wouldn't offer such rewards. The system is offering him 10,000 achievement points. It's rare for the system to offer him a reward that isn't just achievement points, which means that this is at least an epic quest. Goldie resigns himself to his fate, and then tells Jihan that he should receive the crystal blessing first. But our MC refuses then. He picks up his sword and prepares to launch towards the flesh golem that is already aiming for their crystal. A flesh golem is an undead monster with incredible vitality. You can only defeat one by destroying the core at the center of its body. However, even that is difficult, since it has a huge body, above all even at gold level. The fleas golem is a boss-level monster, and even if Jihan has surpassed the strength of a bronze-level player, this isn't a situation that can be dealt with easily. He tells the other two to move aside. Then he jumps into the air using flashing sky thunder steps, leaving a footprint crackling with lightning behind him as he makes his way towards the monster. Martial devotion, these martial arts, which were created based on heaven, and with the understanding of those meanings, Jihan is able to activate a new ability called 3 Talents, marital devotion, cleanly slicing through the flesh golem with a single strike. The impact is strong enough that he's able to completely break through the monster's sturdy flesh and destroy the core in one hit. The attack is so impressive that Diego drops his football in shock, and the system announces that Jihan has dealt with the flesh golem and cleared the bonus mission of the 4th tower. As soon as Jihan swung his sword, Golden Light felt a complicated emotion, which is difficult to put into words. However, all the emotions he felt at once can easily be described as raw. Admiration. Goldie falls to his knees in exhaustion as Diego continues to watch in shock. He has never felt anything like this before. He wants to record all of Jihan and watch him grow to reach the top as a player and as a streamer. But apart from Golden Light's strong decision to put his body and heart on the line, for Jihan this moment, AL's marks the start of Song Jihan and Diego's relationship. Platonic, of course. This isn't that kind of manga. Jihan managed to quickly and easily take out the flesh golem, but the other towers aren't having quite as grand of a time, and the other towers as well are facing a similar fate. But there's one more thing that Jihan needs to do, now that he has the chance. That shocks the soccer player, and Jihan gives him a hint to make him even more interested, telling him that he needs to become a mage. However, it will be boring if everything gets explained right now. So Jihan offers to meet him elsewhere so they can continue the conversation over a meal. If it were anyone else that told Diego this news, they wouldn't even be worth responding to. But since it's Song Jihan who just showed unbelievable power, Diego couldn't help but feel interested in his words, understanding the situation. Diego sends Jihan a private message, and the two of them plan to meet up later for a meal to discuss things. Goldie overhears their conversation and begs Jihan to invite him too. Goldie continues to beg and even offers to become his editor, but Jihan isn't interested and logs out while the streamer is still begging for an opportunity. Back in his room in the Sword Palace, Jihan checks his rewards for completing the second linked quest. He gets 10,000 achievement points and a crystal fragment, but things aren't over yet, and he will get the next linked quest called Traces of the Disciple once he reaches Silver League. It's a good thing that he obtained Force, but the crystal fragment is more disappointing than he expected it to be. It is a 1 rank item that gives the player a divine blessing. It can also only be used in bronze or silver zones. A divine blessing is something that only the peak of support users, like the Saintess, can use, and it is considered a must in the upper levels. However, the fact that it's a 1-use item that can only be used in the lower levels is incredibly disappointing. However, the other rewards more than make up for it. For one, he leveled up 3 times and obtained 6,000 GP because of his triple reward buff from clearing the bonus mission. Now he's level 13, and both his martial power and force are level 17. There are 12 levels left until the silver promotion game, so his levels are already unbelievable enough. Jihan wonders if there are other players who have advanced at this speed before. Divine item that he used in the tower defense mission starts to react since he completed the item's requirements. His divine power rises by 2 and it combines with force. However, even though he used up the weapon's power and it is devolving from C rank to E rank, the stats aren't increasing. It seems like divine power and force are not directly proportional. Suddenly the sword starts to glow with a bright light. The power of the 3 dantians that he used in the sword is leaking out, and it looks like it could not withstand his attack. So Jihan has to absorb it all back into his body. The process fills his room with a bright and blinding light that even leaks outside. Meanwhile, in a building right beside the Sword Palace, relaxing in an unsuspecting room, the Neo Self-Defense Force recruiter, who recently went by the name Sword King Family 8. 9-8 can't help but feel depressed that his plans failed. He was the one that registered the mission on the mage to force Jihan to lose the competition. But despite his plans to see Jihan's status window, he still wasn't able to get what he wanted. Since things haven't settled down since the Sword King left, for now he needs to stop messing the game up by pretending to be in the Sword King family. But it looks like he chose a pathetic player to do his dirty work. For him, things would have worked out if the mage had just broken the crystal immediately, instead of taking a moment to fool around needlessly. At the rate things are going, he might end up losing his opportunity to bring Jihan over to Japan as the recruitment manager of the Neo Self-Defense Force. Takeda Kazuo realized immediately that Jin is a talented player, and he needs to recruit him, using his long experience of recruiting talented players. However, his superiors in the company would only move and make decisions after clear information and evidence has been presented. They asked for evidence that Takeda's intuition about the bronze player is spot on, and he's going to need to do something to back up his position. In order to do that, Takeda needed to see Jihan's status window, which would give undeniable proof that Jihan is a strong player, worthy of Japan's interest. But things have gone on too long, and Takeda is running out of time. He needs to up the ante and bring out the big guns. He will receive permission from the company to use the same special method that they used to acquire the sword. King back with Jihan. This time, though, his force level actually increased. From this, he can tell that every 3 levels of divine power means 1 level for force. Additionally, since his martial power is connected to force, it also increased by 1 point, bringing both to level 18. It's a shame that the weapon is lost, but the benefits from its destruction managed to make up for it. But the system isn't done yet, and it tells him that since the value of force has exceeded 17, he can only absorb divine power from a ranked divine items or higher. That's a huge handicap, since a ranked divine items are incredibly hard to come by. Sia burst into the room to happily tell her uncle that she just got a 50 billion. One deposit. Her joy is cut short, though, when she sees the state of the room. And Jihan, he tries to play it off, But the blood fountain on his forehead begs to differ. Jihin just follows along with her, as she continues to scold him with a smile on his face. Later on, after he gets his wounds bandaged up, the two of them head out to a restaurant to eat, with the money they have received. After spending a decade in the U.S., he really missed eating some pork belly in a familiar Korean atmosphere. It's the first time he's been able to eat a proper meal. Since regressing, it's not back to eating out once in a while. But Jihan just wants to return to the food he's familiar with. Sia insists that she's paying, so he should ask for something better and more expensive. Jihan just waves his hand and tells her that they're going to eat all their meals together anyway, so they can have fancier food some other time. But Saya tells him that they won't be eating together for much longer. And although she may not look like it, she's still the student council president. So it's weird for her to have such a long absence from school. The teacher already told her that she can rest for another week. The gift room is something that everyone gets to experience. On their 18th birthday, Sia's birthday is August 22nd. And even in these hellish times, Sia still waited for that day eagerly. Sia, who had wanted to be blessed in the academy's gift room, had hoped that she would get a good gift that would make the situation better. That hope fell apart when Sia received an F-rank gift. That was the moment where the strong Sia finally fell apart. He can't tell her that she's going to receive an F-rank gift though. So for now, he should just try to lower her expectations. She's going to start school the next day, since it's a Monday, so she can get a fresh start. Jihan offers to be her personal driver to and from school. She frowns and turns away from him. But even though she tries to make it look like she's upset, she can't hide the joy in her face at his decision. The next day, early in the morning, the two head down to the Sword Palace parking lot. The Sword King had an assortment of sports cars and supercars, but now the place is completely empty. It looks like their relatives sold them all without their knowledge. Seiya decides to just take the bus, but Jihan notices a car has been left behind. The door is open and the keys are inside. Despite its old and beat-up appearance, the car still manages to start up. Sia panics a little bit at the fact that they're going in that car, and Jihan thinks that she's embarrassed to be seen in such an old car, but she tells him that she's actually worried. He asks her what she's worried about, but gets her answer, which is where Sia studies. In the parking lot, it looks like this man is trying to pick a fight with them, simply because Jihan is driving a cheap car. He tries to tell them to move and even calls Jihan a beggar, causing our MC to calmly exit the car and tell the man to watch his tongue. The other people around them quickly recognize Jihan as the Bronze Killer, and they immediately take out their phones to record the interaction so they can stream it on the internet. Elsewhere in the Divergent Guild headquarters, Hyun immediately gets up and tells Gyeong to follow her. She's going to make sure that Jihan won't look down on her anymore. Back with Jihan, the man continues to provoke Jihan, and then eventually draws his fist back to attack. Jihan doesn't make any attempts to block. Then before the man can speak, Jihan shuts his mouth and slams him to the ground in a kneeling position. As Jihan calmly scolds the man for his bullheadedness, Seiya comes around the side of the car and warns her uncle that people are watching them. Then from the car that the man drove earlier, a young girl around Seiya's age sticks her head out of the window and calls out to Seiya. Her name is Kim Heezu, and she's the vice president at Battle.net Academy. It looks like this person is Seiya's friend, and she hops out of the car to greet Seiya. As she steps out of the car, she asks her driver why he's on the ground, and he lies that it's because it's slippery. Heezu ignores her driver's attempt to apologize and asks Seiya where all the supercars from before went. She admits that her dad sold all the cars, and Heezu gets even more worried and tells Seiya that she should have contacted her in that situation. Then she promises to give Seiya a ride to school from now on. The action and offer are both so sudden, and Seiya can't hide her shock at the sudden offer. But Heezu continues to insist and even offers to tell her father about it. Jihan watches the interaction, but something doesn't feel right. He doesn't remember anyone being so close to Seiya in his past life, but he's nowhere to be found. A worker confirms that Jihan got in his car and left earlier, and that causes Haeyeon to worry even more. She's worried that foreign scouts might come for him too, and she wants to snatch him up before they do. Gyeong stops Haeyeon from biting her nails and tells her to calm down. And the other woman is forced to accept the situation and think up a new plan. She failed to find him this time. But from now on, she will chase him live until she finds him. As she walks away, she watches the ongoing match that Jihan is in right now. As for the match itself, the results are already pretty obvious. Jihan has an overwhelming lead against the rest of the players, and he's beating them all down almost too easily. With his nameless divine arts, as well as his martial arts skill, he's able to very easily take down all his opponents. He's practicing how to focus his senses and adjust quickly to situations, and it looks like it's working out in his favor. He cracks his knuckles and shifts his attention to his next targets. And there are people who have already been beaten up by Jihan before. For any Bronze League players matching up with him, it's essentially the same as a natural disaster. That is impossible to prepare for. The game ends, and once again Jihan has come in first place. He has also come in first place 5 times in a row. And the system rewards him with a 200% increase in his experience. In GP gain, he also reaches level 15, which unlocks the dungeon map as his next area. The dungeon is a game type that opens from level 15. And unlike the rest of the game where you just need to fight, dungeons have different traps, mazes and puzzles that need to be cleared to proceed. However, unlike the other game modes, this one is co-op. And there's a limit to how far one person can go alone. Even on Battle.net, they recommend that cooperating with party members is a necessary part of playing in dungeon mode. However, there are too many guys after him. And if he ends up being partied with people who want to screw him over, then there's nothing he can do about it. He briefly considers joining a guild, but changes his mind not long after. He doesn't want to be there for long. And the guild will be annoying when he eventually asks to leave. Besides, he will reach silver soon, and once he reaches silver, it's time for dinner. The food is all set, and the two of them sit down to eat. Seiya is surprised that Jihan can cook so well. But Jihan honestly just threw together the ingredients they had to make a basic meal. She freaks out over how good the food is. And Jihan tells her that he will cook properly for her next time. He used to cook himself a meal every day when he was in America, so he's already well accustomed to being in the kitchen. As they eat, Jihan asks Seiya if she's going to be getting a ride from her friend, often from now on. Seiya tells him that she doesn't want to ride in her car, because during the entire trip, she kept on showing uncomfortable levels of concern and asking personal questions. And eventually it became too much for Seiya to handle. Jihan immediately understands and realizes that being with the girl must suck. There's another reason though, and it's because her mom's car is much more comfortable and filled with warmth. Jihan also agrees with that. And this time there are a lot of scouts and reporters waiting for them. After their flashy outburst the previous day, it's no wonder that so many people are interested in seeing him. At this point, they are practically his stalkers. Thankfully, the school security is doing a good job of keeping him back and out of the school's premises. As they drive into the parking lot, they see 2 familiar faces waiting for them. It's Hyun and Gaeong. She's even more upset because she gave him her business card, but he never contacted her. The truth is that he just completely forgot about her. Though this time, though, she has made sure that he has no way to escape. She takes him to the school's garden rooftop, where they can have a nice private meeting. At least, it would be private if not for the other scouts camping outside, hoping that they would get a chance to talk to Jihan. Jaein notices that Haeyeon is more comfortable than usual, and that's because she graduated from this school. But she's more upset about his behavior. He apologizes for forgetting her, but she tells him that it's fine, since it's a refreshing change of pace. Jihan is the first person that has made her run around and give chase, so she prepared treatment befitting that. It's such a big deal that the other recruiters prepare to start heading home. Even Jihan is shocked by how much she seemed to prepare just for him. She leans in close to him and directly tells him that these are her feelings for him. Her approach is so direct and effective that it makes the rest of the recruiters, who are still hanging on to a shred of hope, turn around and walk away. Even Jihan has to admit that he's impressed by how far ahead. She seems to think this up as she stares him down and tries to figure out what he's thinking. Her being so close to him allows him to catch a scent of her perfume. He can immediately tell that it's the same perfume that Zero used back when they were close friends. Haeyeon, tired of standing up and staring at him, finally plops back on her seat with a huff. At this point, she's frustrated by the fact that she can't seem to get a reaction out of him. And on top of that, she hasn't even gotten his number. Her approach is too direct, though. And Jihan immediately realizes that she just wants his phone number. He doesn't turn her down this time, though, and instead suggests that they make a bet. He tells her about the fact that he just hit level 15, and as they know, the first game after hitting the milestone will always be a dungeon. Haeyeon can barely believe that Jihan has reached level 15. It's been less than a month since he started actively participating in the BattleNet. But more importantly, even in a situation like this, he's trying to make a bet with her. It makes no sense she doesn't turn it down, and instead asks what his betting conditions are. It's straightforward, really. He wants to enter the BattleNet right now, and if he misses first place, then he will form a contract with the Divergent Guild. And of course he'll give her his number as well. That sounds risky, since it's well known that a lot of people are targeting him. His request is simple. It's the last piece of the puzzle that he needs to confirm Hyeon's identity. Once he sees it, he can finally check if she has the same gift of nurturing as Zero. At this time, the nurturing gift was just an experience buff, which makes it an embarrassing gift to show others. And seeing her reaction pretty much confirms his suspicions. But he needs to check things with his own eyes and make sure that his intuition is correct. Just like he expected, she agrees to the bet reluctantly and warns him not to end up regretting it. Later on, since he plans to enter the BattleNet immediately, she asks if he wants to move locations, but he doesn't need that. He enters the BattleNet immediately and starts a BattleTube live broadcast as well, so they can watch him just as expected. He spawns in a dungeon called the Conqueror's Tomb. The Conqueror's Tomb is a high-level difficulty dungeon where the legendary Conqueror sleeps. Various monsters appear in this dungeon, but lacks the complex puzzle features such as traps or mazes. However, there's a reason that the difficulty of this dungeon is so high. The only way to clear it is to ensure that all members of the party survive till the end, which means that getting lucky with teammates is very important. Jihan enters the dungeon, and his temporary teammates also get summoned right beside him. From what he can see, these teammates don't look bad at all, and they immediately recognize him. From the looks of it, they're all in the same guild, and their equipment is pretty good too. They greet him with a lot of respect and look genuinely happy to be working with him. They're usually known to be considerate people, so it's likely that they will get first place. The team also has a laid-back air to them, now that they have someone as powerful as Jihan on their team. But Jihan refuses and decides to take the lead himself. Jihan is just glad they aren't trolls this time, and he was worried because of the clear conditions of this dungeon. They step into the first level, and the monsters already start to spawn. The ground seems to grow, as the sand on the floor slowly morphs into monsters, known as the Tomb's Guards. The rest of his team enters battle mode, and asks how they should get into formation. But Jihan just needs them to stay behind him, and as soon as he enters, they try to take a swing at him. But he's able to easily dodge the attacks with no problem. Then he returns the attack with a simple punch, taking down one of the guards with one hit. He continues the onslaught, punching through the guards without any problems. In a matter of seconds, the room is clear, and he reminds his stunned teammates that they need to keep up with him. In the Conqueror's Tomb, there are a total of 10 pathways, and each team is assigned to one pathway. All pathways lead to the underground level 7, which has the final stage. Jihan's team was assigned to the 8th path, and they are currently in an overwhelming lead. They're already down to level 3, and all his teammates have had to do the entire time is quietly follow behind Jihan. They have heard of how strong Jihan is, but seeing him in real life is really humbling. He's crushing the sturdy heads of the soldiers, like they're made of sand, and easily clearing a way for them. This entire time, he hasn't even used a weapon yet, and yet he's showing strength far above a normal Bronze League as he continues pushing through the levels. He receives a donation from a familiar and annoying username. It's Takeda, and he begs Jihan to check his mail for a big fat donation. The strange way the man talks makes even the commentators uncomfortable, and his intentions are really clear. He wants to recruit Jihan to Japan no matter the costs. The commentators beg Jihan not to leave Korea, since they can't lose him too, after just losing the Sword King. Luckily, he has no intentions of leaving Korea, and even bans Takeda from his stream for making such lousy attempts to recruit him. Now, they're even done with level 3. When the rest of the teams are probably still struggling to clear level 1, one of the players checks the strength of a guard with his sword, and it has a durability as hard as metal. Yet Jihan is easily destroying them with just his fists. As the warrior checks the statue's durability though, he receives a strange message that causes him to pause for a moment. The others continue their trek down the towers, and the mage in the group apologizes for making Jihan do everything. For them, he doesn't mind. And at this point, he's just happy that they aren't trolling, like the rest of the people he has played with. They make it down to level 4, and this one looks like a straight path. As Jihan checks the area, another one of the players receives a message as well, and they pause to stare at it in disbelief. Jihan can tell from the holes in the walls and the ground that they're all just traps set for them. Usually the Conqueror's Tomb has almost no traps, but it looks like that is because they're all concentrated here. Jihan doesn't mind the traps, and asks them if it's alright for them to speed up a bit. The archer and the warrior both pull out their weapons discreetly. They wait for him to start moving. The message they received was yet another attempt from the Sword King family to disrupt Jihan's game by telling his teammates to kill themselves without being noticed, which automatically sabotages Jihan's game. The guild members of the Black Eagle Guild all received the same quest from the very same Takeda, who was just banned from watching Jihan stream. Originally, the recruiter wanted to avoid using this method, but at this point all he can use is money to try and get his way, now that the stage has been set. The question is what Jihan will do to prevent his inevitable loss, to make sure he loses on top of that. These people won't make it obvious, which means that the moment he takes off, he will fail immediately. There are no exceptions, and Takeda is sure to win. That is, unless a certain golden lad decides to step in and tip Jihan off. In advance, Jihan and the mage rush through the trap-filled room, and immediately the traps activate, sending several arrows flying towards them. The mage tries to prepare a spell to get rid of the arrows, but Jihan already has a plan to stop them. He activates his absolute territory, and the arrows freeze in midair. The mage excitedly turns to ask his teammates if they can also see what's going on, and that's when he notices the two of them turning their weapons on themselves. The mage calls for them to stop what they are doing, and that's enough of a warning for Jihan to turn and notice what they are trying to do. He activates his flashing sky. Thunder steps in, the split second that the guys are confused from having been caught, and thanks to it, he's fast enough to stop them from doing anything drastic and knocks their weapons out of their hands. The mage runs back in from the trap room to check if Jihan and his guild mates are all right. In their panic, they both reveal the fact that they got a suicide mission from someone. If one of them kills themselves, then the game ends immediately for them. The mage takes a moment to apologize to Jihan for the actions of his guild members, but our MC is just relieved that he made it in time to stop them from doing something stupid. But he knows that things aren't over just yet. He uses his force ability to move the mage's hand, right as a beam of light shoots out of it. The Black Eagle Guild all receive the same suicide quest, and the mage yells in anger and asks Jihan how he knew that they all received the quest. After all, there's nothing that they did to make him suspect them. The person who alerted Jihan of his corrupted teammates was none other than Golden Light himself, who paid Jihan's absurdly high donation fee just to make sure that Jihan knows that his teammates have been bribed thanks to the fact that he's a die-hard fan. Goldie had been watching the broadcast in real time, and he noticed that the other members all seemed to receive a strange message, one by one. That's when he noticed the mission given out by Sword King Family 989 with an incredibly high reward of 1 billion won. Even though the donation message starts from 10 million and one. But Jihan is more focused on how strange this event seems to be, regardless of the grudge that the Sword King family has against him. Spending 1 billion won on one mission is just insane. Even if their life is on the line, it's definitely not worth that much. The conclusion is that whoever sent this mission is at least a name, guild rank, or someone with the Sword King's special influence. To think that they would give 1 billion yen just to check one status screen is insane. So now the question is, who could have done such a thing? The commentators immediately realized that it must be Takeda. That's the only person who can do something so dirty, while also dropping a huge amount of money into it. Because of that, Jihan changes his promise. Instead of revealing his status screen at 200,000 subscribers, he will now reveal his status screen at 1 million subscribers, however. Even with that change, his promise of placing first in every mission still stays the same. As he says that, he picks up the warrior sword and gets a special rope from his inventory. It's a good thing that this happened, because Jahan was worried that he would hit 200,000 subscribers too soon thanks to all this. He managed to gain some money as well as some attention. Now with the F-grade rope of restraint, it's time for him to take care of these betrayers that he has unluckily been paired up with. He tied them up in a bunch like livestock and drags them through the dungeon behind him, so he doesn't have to worry about them. Eventually, without any more distractions, they are able to make it to the 6th level, just before the Emperor's room. And it looks like this place is filled with a lot more tomb guards than anywhere else he has been. Jihan stares up into the darkness as hundreds of eyes stare back at him and warn him not to go any further. Before they made it here, Jihan continued to drag them through the floor, and to make sure that they didn't make too much noise. He also used force to close their mouths as Jihan tied them up. One of the players even says that Jihan will make an energy out of their guild to make sure that they don't struggle. Jihan used his finger to poke at their pressure points, causing the strength to leave their body. That's something that only an advanced level martial artist, which is an advanced warrior class, can do at this rate. They will be dragged around meaninglessly, and there's nothing they can do to stop it. The warrior remembers that Jihan is very sensitive about his niece, but before he can even say anything, his mouth is shut tight with force, stopping him from doing something stupid. As he drags them through the ground to make sure that they don't die, he passively heals them so that they don't die from the rough treatment. Finally, they make it to the 6th floor, where they are confronted by multiple monsters hiding in the shadows. They are all the same clay soldiers that he fought before, and there are a lot of them this time. Jihan is prepared for their attack, and parries a sword aimed at his teammates. Then to make sure that he's not distracted, he grabs his bunched-up crew and tosses them to the center of the room. Now that he doesn't have any distractions, he sets off clearing out the clay soldiers approaching them, except unlike before, after slicing them down, the fact that their eyes are glowing means that they are in berserker mode. Right then a linked quest appears out of nowhere and urges Jihan to kill all the guards. It's been a while since he got a linked quest, and the last time was during the defense map, to make sure that his teammates aren't attacked. While his back is turned, he places a shield over them to protect them. Then to test how good it is, he smacks his sword against it, confirming that it's sturdy enough to survive anything the clay soldiers throw at it. He also reinforces it with a force field made from his force power, creating a double layer of protection. Now that he doesn't have to actively protect them, he can focus on going all out to take down these soldiers, stopping all the soldiers before they can get too close to him. All the movements of anyone who comes within the territory is absolutely slowed down. Then with just his hands, he can overpower everything. It's a shame that Baron had such an amazing skill, but only used it to reinforce his mana. Now that he has the clay soldiers under his territory, it's time for him to get this over with. With one massive attack, he sends all the soldiers flying and immediately clears the quest with no issues. With the 6th floor taken care of, they finally proceed to the Emperor's room. There they meet the Conqueror, who is the reason that all party members must be alive for the quest to be completed. He welcomes them and calls them plunderers who want to steal gold. The clear condition of the final stage is simple. All 4 party members need to give a respectful bow to the Conqueror and stand in specific areas. He throws the 3 stooges on the ground and uses force to untie their ropes, then forces them to walk towards the spots that have been designated, so they can bow thanks to his high level in his force stat. Even though the distance between the areas where each player must bow is significantly high, Jihan is confident that he can do it. He successfully makes the players stand in the appropriate places. Then he's able to make them bow to the ground. Once he is sure that they have all bowed appropriately, he joins them on the ground, successfully completing the quest. A gate opens up for them to return to their world. But despite the fact that he has already cleared the quest, Jihan isn't moving. He's suddenly got a hidden quest from the system, which requires him to show genuine respect to the Conqueror's statue for a reward of 5,000 achievement points, as well as the Conqueror's arrow. And if he can complete this quest, then he will get that as a reward too. To test the waters, Jihan drags one of the other players towards him and then tosses him up towards the Emperor as a show of genuine respect. The golden horse that the Emperor is sitting on grabs the player and chews him up, killing him instantly. The Emperor takes a moment to consider what Jihan is doing, then asks RMC if the king of plunderers he's referring to is the Conqueror himself. Jihan confirms that a conqueror is the epitome of plundering, and he is just trying to show his genuine respect. Then he tells the giant statue that, instead of all the gold in the room, what he really wants is the arrow that is resting on the conqueror's bow. To know the value of that arrow and plunder is the genuine respect that the system requires him to show, and that is the condition to clear this hidden quest. In an instant, the statue shows a large grin, then bursts out into insane laughter. It looks like it is pleased by Jihan's show of respect, and it praises him for it. As a reward, he will grant Jihan the treasure for having shown true and genuine respect. Jihan knows where this is going and grabs the sword to prepare for it as the statue draws the phoenix arrows back and takes aim towards Jihan, and the others can barely breathe. They catch on fire from the phoenix, flames filling the room, and even Jihan catches on fire as well. Things have gotten dangerous, and as it stands, he's not sure that he will be able to hold out until the end. It doesn't matter if his teammates die. The room gets so hot that even the gold starts to melt, and the Conqueror hasn't even shot the arrow yet. One of the other players dies from the overwhelming heat, leaving just Jihan and the warrior. The heat is overwhelming, and Jihan can feel it inside his body. At his current state, Jihan definitely cannot face that arrow head on, so the only hope he has is to aim for the bow before he shoots the arrow. He uses another skill that used to be part of the Nameless divine technique called the Ultra Speed Stab. Just before the Conqueror has a chance to shoot the arrow, Jihan uses the stab to toss the sword straight at the bow, snapping it in half, before the Conqueror has a chance to shoot the arrow, causing the phoenix arrow to fall to the ground. At that moment, the statue's grin disappears, and he asks Jihan for his name. Then he stops referring to Jihan as a plunderer and refers to him as a noble warrior instead. Then he passes the arrow over to Jihan as a reward for showing true respect, just like he thought. The arrow is so big that it can be used as a spear. Then the statue tells Jihan that he looks forward to the day they can meet in a more honorable battlefield. In the future, the battle net has countless battlefields, so it's inevitable that they will meet again. But until then, Jihan will gladly use this new weapon to its fullest potential, as he admires the spear. His viewers are more concerned about the ability that he used to break the bow. It was so fast that slow motion isn't even enough to see what happened. That's because the Ultra Speed Stab isn't just super fast. It's also a technique that precisely aims at one point, with a thin sword chewy. The fact that he was able to use it means that he's getting better at controlling the Nameless divine arts the first time he drew out this ability. It was unstable and consumed a lot of his strength. Now that he has completed the hidden quest, he has also been acknowledged by the Conqueror and has been exempted from the test on the 7th floor. There's no reason to let a guy that stabbed him in the back make it to number 1. He walks over to the warrior, who is still just barely waking up after the intense heat that engulfed the room. Then Jihan uses his new spear to stab at the man, ending his life in an instant. The game ends and Jihan returns to the school rooftops, where it seems like everyone was watching his fight in the dungeon. The spear is easily the most impressive thing, and it's crazy that he got something so valuable from a bronze dungeon. He turns to Heian and Gyeong, who are also watching the stream, and announces that he got first again. Just like he promised, that means that he won the bet. And as his reward, Heian has to show him her status window. Heian flinches, and Jihan initially thinks that she wants to go back on her word, but she's more anxious about the giant spear that he's holding behind him. It's filled with such overwhelming power that Gyung is almost forced to instinctively draw her sword. After he puts the spear away, she shows him her status window, just like she promised, but she's still embarrassed about showing it to him. Seeing it himself confirms exactly what he thought. Gaeon watches unworriedly from the side, as Haein seems to die from embarrassment, and she was so upset that she spent so much money for such a garbage gift. She was so upset she started wondering why she even went to the academy in the first place, and she ended up talking badly about the academy at any chance she got. But now, she has to reveal her fostering ability at the very same academy. Of all places, Jihan, on the other hand, isn't saying anything, and Hyun looks up at him only to catch him smiling at her. She thinks that he's laughing at her, but he clarifies that he's happy instead. Then he pulls out his phone and asks for her phone number. Hyun reminds him that she lost the bet, but he tells her that he just wants her number. Then she tells him that her number is on the business card that she gave him, but then he tells her that he lost it. Haeon can't get rid of the feeling that he's playing around with her, even saving her name in his phone with a heart. Then she turns around and walks away. Jihan just lightly laughs and then tells her that he will call. That's the last straw for her ego, and she wants to yell at him, but just barely holds herself back. Elsewhere in the school, Hisu, though, doesn't seem as happy as the others do about Jihan's accomplishment. In fact, she almost looks angry. The girl asks Hisu if she also notices how different Jihan looks, compared to just a month ago, the last time Hisu went to Seo's house. Jihan looked like some unemployed alcoholic bum, and now he has turned into this amazing person, who even has one of her other classmates swooning in glee. Sia can't help shed tears of joy at the fact that her uncle has become someone so respectable. Hisu then reminds Sia that her 18th birthday is coming up, which also means that the day she officially becomes a player is coming up. Everyone awakens as a player when they turn 18, allowing them to see their status windows. The other students also remember that fact, and the fact that she must be nervous about it. Battle Net Academy. Students eagerly await the day that they can become players, after spending so much time with various classes and undergoing so much training. The gift room is the biggest reason for the academy existing, and all the students are also the most interested in the gifts. The other students start to wonder if Sia will receive a gift as well, and some already think that it will be at least an S rank gift. After all, her dad has an SSS rank gift. Her mom was an SS rank and a saintess, and there are rumors that her uncle is at least an S rank. With all those talents in her family, there's no way she won't be just as powerful as they are. Although there's already been research done that proves that genetics has nothing to do with gifts. Still, despite that, her birthday is just a little over a week away, so she's been really anxious about it. But Hisu tries to be there to comfort her. She tells Seiya to look forward to a gift that she will get on her birthday. Meanwhile, in the Neo Self-Defense Force training hall in Japan, countless unconscious people lay behind the Sword King as proof of his training session. The onlookers can only wonder if the Sword King has always been this powerful. However, it's been made clear through this training session that the Sword King has gotten even stronger, and all his abilities are now higher than before, now that things have gotten to this level. Hien is having a very heated conversation with someone over the phone. She's talking to her father, who wants her to try and pursue a relationship with someone she doesn't like at all. They continue to argue, and her father continues to try and encourage her to get married as soon as possible. And eventually, she gets so upset that she ends the call abruptly on him. And Haeon doesn't even hide the fact that she's upset. She left her home and her life behind because her father kept on trying to force her to marry people that were way too old or unlikable. This time he forced her to go on a date with an overweight, balding old man from the Neo Self-Defense Force. It was a really bad and uncomfortable situation, and this has been her life for as long as she has been in marriage. Despite the fact that she's rich, it doesn't stop her father from wanting her to marry someone wealthy, seemingly out of nowhere. She knows that Gaon doesn't have much time to herself because she is working as a bodyguard, and with her S rank gift, her talents would have been much more useful elsewhere. Gaon doesn't mind though, and she assures Hae Young that being a bodyguard is her duty, and something that she has chosen to do. For now, she'll just hold on until Heian inherits the company. Although the divergent guild recruiter doesn't want to do so. Instead, she wants to be independent. So she can earn her own money and live the kind of life she wants, without her parents nagging her to get married. That would have been a noble cause, if not for the fact that Young's main way of earning her own money is through gambling. It may be legal, but Heian keeps losing on every gamble, which makes it very unlikely that she will make her own money this way. But this time, she is sure that she will be able to win something big. This time, that is because of the Korea versus Japan matchup coming soon. It's a rather sad situation, but all the Koreans are betting on Japan winning. People don't want to say it directly, but everyone knows that Japan is going to win. Her phone vibrates in her hand with a message from Jihan, and the contents of the message cause her eyes to go wide with shock. The next day, and even he can tell that it's very expensive. Jihan doesn't mind though, and tells him to ask for anything else he might want. He asks for a drink, and Jihan orders him some soju. Then he takes a bite of the meat, and it's so good that Diego can barely speak. Now that the two of them have gotten acquainted, Jihan tells Diego to speak more casually and comfortably. The two of them chat and drink. And as the day goes on, Diego confesses that he's a bit resentful about the way his life has gone. If it weren't for the BattleNet, then he wouldn't be living this kind of life. He was a soccer star and one of the best in the world. But in the blink of an eye, he fell to rock bottom because of that. He couldn't get any more to support himself, and his wife and children left him. Jihan understands what Diego is talking about. People began losing interest in sports, and just like that, he also lost all his fans. Eventually, FIFA and the professional soccer scene would disappear, as people forgot all about soccer. Nothing more needs to be said. When a world-class player is forced to live in Korea, teaching kids how to play soccer, Diego stops talking about himself and suggests that they get to the point. Jihan recently advised him to become a mage, and he wants to know why. It's because of the gift that Diego has. It reinforces all equipment that resembles a soccer ball, and it's an SSS rank gift as well. Because of that, Diego carries a soccer ball wherever he goes, but he doesn't know if he has what it takes to be a mage, since his mana stat is really bad. To show his sincerity, Jihan summons an item that he got specifically for Diego. It's an Arachnus orb, and it's a B rank magical item from the spider tribe. The orb is wrapped in spider's web, making it very elastic, and since spiders have only feet, the orb is considered a ball, therefore making it the perfect equipment for Diego. This item will bring out the real Diego, who was the most powerful mage to ever exist in Jihan's past life. And Jihan tells him that it's about 50 million won. And the mention of the insane price immediately sobers up Diego. That's more expensive than the down payment on his house. Normally, Diego wouldn't be able to buy something like this, even after 10 years of saving. Jihan isn't done yet, though, and he has more to offer. He wants to give Diego this orb as a gift, and he even plans to support Diego financially too. The former soccer star can't believe what Jihan is saying, but our MC isn't done. He wants Diego to join the guild that he will create when he reaches silver rank. Naturally, Diego wants to know if Jihan has enough money for that, and our MC is confident that he does, although he's also sure that he's about to make a lot more pretty soon. Then he shows Diego his phone, and whatever is on it is enough to cause the soccer star to think that Jihan has officially lost his mind. It's the predictions of the match that will happen between Japan and Korea, and it predicts that Korea will have 1 win and 3 losses. He sends the same information to Hyun, but she doesn't believe it. There's no way that Korea will be able to win against the Sword King, but his prediction will be proven soon enough, because the time for the Korea versus Japan round has finally arrived. Diego can't believe that Jihan thinks that Korea will get 1 win. It's almost impossible for him to imagine that happening. He's not looking down on the Korean team, but the Sword King is a whole other level. He's someone so powerful that he can take on an entire team on his own. Jihan understands why that would be hard to believe, but it's easier if he shows it than if he explains it. Then Jihan picks up a remote and turns on a TV beside their table, showing the match happening live. The international competition is set to begin, and the conditions to win is that one team must defeat all the players on the opponent team. There will be 5 rounds, and the first team to get 3 wins is the winner of the battle. They don't want to follow his lead, and they don't acknowledge him as a teammate. It's not just because he's Korean, but also because they have had another member who has been their longtime teammate. That person had to be removed for the Sword King to participate in this competition. Because of that, they don't want to follow along with Rua's plans. As they are arguing, one of the Korean players starts it off with a powerful attack. Aimed directly at Ruha, the attack lands perfectly, surprising everyone on the Japanese team, as well as even the Korean team. They see this as an opportunity. Their goal is to take down the Sword King first, and then go for the others later. Rua stops them in the paths with a simple swing of his sword, slashing the ground in front of them before they can make it to him. Then, as a show of rebellion, he stabs himself in the chest, taking himself out of the first round of the competition. That gives the first kill to the Korean team, shocking the entire crowd. It was recorded as the Korean team's kill, even though Ryohei took himself out. Now Jihan's prediction is starting to make sense, but the question is how he even knew that this was going to happen. Jihan can't reveal that, but he tells Diego to focus on the match for now. With Ryohei taking out the Korean team has an easy time, eliminating the remaining Japanese players, giving the first win to Korea. The MVP role goes to the support, who cast the spell that originally hit the Sword King in the first place, and just like that, things have taken a completely unexpected turn, but they are exactly what Jihan predicted. Everything is going exactly the way it did in his past life, even down to the dividend rates of the betting app. Back in the recovery area, the Japanese players confront Ryohei for his rash decision. He's the nation's representative, and he just casually killed himself to prove a point. Ryohei is tired of their constant whining and calls them a bunch of trash without any sense of professionalism. He can see now why they lost to Korea every time, and he's tired of being around it. He doesn't care about their childish friendships, and he calmly tells them that if they don't recognize him as their leader, then he will kill himself in every round, until they do with the choices laid out before them. They have no other option left but to accept Ryohei as their leader if they want to win. The second round starts, and the Korean side is just as confused as last time. They don't understand why Ryohei killed himself out of nowhere. They initially wonder if he's a spy or something, but they quickly see that that is not the case. The Ryohei on the battlefield is clearly more than willing to fight now, and he has a completely different atmosphere around him than last time. The Korean team stays alert and prepares to defend, but in the blink of an eye, Ryohei has delivered an attack so powerful that it hits 3 of them, all with one hit. The raw power of the attack shocks the players and the audience as they realize the overwhelming gap in power. Then he follows up with another attack, immediately killing the last remaining player, who survived his vicious attack. The Korean audience trembles in fear, while the Japanese audience screams in joy and chants Ryui's name. The Sword King defeated the South Korean team with just 2 attacks, and that equalizes the scores as expected. And the fourth round is not much different. The Korean team can barely show any resistance against Ryohei's overwhelming power, and it ended up being a completely one-sided defeat by Korea. By the fourth round, they try to put up a harsher fight, putting everything they have into the fight. But it's ultimately pointless. Even with his hands bound, he's still somehow able to move the sword with some other power and break his chains, defeating them one by one without missing a beat. It's only the archer and the mage left, and they both struggle to hold their ground. But it's no point with their attention completely focused on Ryohei. The other team is able to take down the archer with a cheap shot before he notices. The other members of the Japanese team are still there, after all, and they can still put up a fight, however minuscule it might be. With only the mage left, Ryohei personally goes up to finish her off. He does this with a new ability he seems to have called Sword Flight. The 2 players make some small talk, and the mage doesn't let her inevitable loss stop her from taunting Ryohei on his rash decision to leave Korea and show off in Japan. Ryohei doesn't let her words get to him and tells her that she would have been able to survive for longer if her fighting skills were at least half as good as her talking skills, not willing to go down without a fight. The mage activates a spell that boosts her power, but before she can fully activate it, the Sword King decides to try out a new technique on her. bringing down a giant sword of light over her head, which leaves nothing but a huge crater in the middle of the arena. The match is over, and, as expected, it's an overwhelming victory for Japan. It's hard to swallow for the Korean team, but they are determined to come back stronger no matter what. Diego was just shocked that Jihan predicted the outcome so precisely. He lies that he saw it in a dream. And now that dream has helped him win a mountain of money. That's perfect for him, but it doesn't ease his worry over the performance that he saw from Ryu Hai. The Sword King is much stronger than Jihan remembers. In fact, the nameless divine arts might not even be enough to go against him. He will make sure that no matter how strong the Sword King becomes, he will become even stronger. The two of them will clash eventually, and it will be a fight for the ages. Someone else is a lot more excited about her payout from the betting than Jihan is, though. And it's all thanks to Jihan. Unfortunately, she ended up in about 20,000 in debt from the total earnings in the game. After she followed Jihan's advice, Haeyeon was sure that South Korea would lose 0-3 and bet more against them. She bet 200,000 on her surety. That Korea would face an overwhelming defeat without a single victory, and that's how she ended up with a net loss. The next question is today's main topic. The fact that Jihan wants to make a contract with a football star. Diego doesn't understand why Jihan suddenly wants to make a contract with him. Out of nowhere. Because he doesn't see himself as worth that much effort. But Jihan is sure that this contract will be worth it. He tells Diego that the same foresight he used to predict the outcome of the Korea-Japan match is the same thing he is using to tell that Diego will be a very valuable asset in the future. Jihan is very confident in that decision, and that's why he wants to bring Diego to his side no matter the cost. And this contract is nothing more than an investment from Jihan. Diego hasn't had someone chase after him this much since his days as a football star. He missed being a vital aspect of someone's team. After BattleNet was created, he thought that he would never experience this feeling again. There's no reason for him to refuse such a generous offer. Diego happily gets up from his chair and stretches his hand across the table to shake with Jihan. He will never forget the kindness that Jihan has shown him today, and he's determined to pay him back 10,000 times over. Jihan smiles lightly and tells him that he is eagerly waiting for that day. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Gyeong is facing her own battles in a gladiator match of her own. She's not as skilled as Jihan, but she still easily takes out the competition and is known for constantly placing at the top. In any mission she's put in, people usually team up to take her down because of this, but she's always able to send them flying with ease. The game ends as she takes out the last two threats and brings down the total numbers. And once again, she places first. Her result of 5 kills isn't bad at all, but she can't be satisfied with just this anymore. She has to get stronger to compare to the high-ranking Sword King, who showed overwhelming power during the Korea-Japan match, and also to Jihan, who has grown into an undefeated legend. Gyeong started slacking off after she entered the Divergent Guild, and she has to do better going forward. Seiya is facing similar struggles on her end, and she reads an article about her father's recent victory, with a pained look on her face. She tries to play it off, but Hizu can tell just from the expression on her face that Seiya isn't in a good place at the moment. The vice president offers to stay at Seiya's place for the day to help reassure her, but Seiya declines the offer. She's just happy that Hizu is willing to drive her home. Since her uncle was busy with work and couldn't pick her up today, the driver even apologizes personally, again, for making a mistake in challenging Jihan for no reason the other day. Then Hizu brings up another topic that the two have talked about previously, and asks if Seiya has given any thought. The Sword King's daughter still seems hesitant to agree to whatever they discussed. Their conversation is cut short, though, when the car comes to a sudden stop. Hizu angrily asks her driver why he stopped so suddenly, but the reason is crowding right in front of the car. As they speak, they have arrived at the Sword Palace, and right in front of the building, there's a crowd of people seemingly waiting for her. Jihan has finished his meeting with Diego and makes his way home. Across the rooftops, he notices that he feels a lot lighter now, that his strength has increased. And he has also grown a lot as a result, and sits across the edge watching the peaceful streets below him. He used to relax on rooftops in the past, when he lived in the United States. And this makes him somewhat nostalgic of the past. Now, he has gotten a first-person view of the kind of person Ryuhei was in this era in reality. He never got a chance to fight the Sword King himself in his past life, during the era where half of Earth's countries had disappeared, and he started becoming one of the high rankers. The Sword King, who had been the top-ranked warrior, suddenly disappears without leaving a trace. He's definitely as strong as Jihan was at his peak. Just because he's growing quickly doesn't mean that Jihan can afford to take a break. To do that, he needs to achieve the full nameless divine arts as soon as possible. Now that he's done resting, he continues his journey home, where a startling scene is waiting for him. Kizu's driver tries to shift the people out of the way so that Seiya can pass, but there are just too many of them. And they're all here to try and get first-hand interviews with Seiya. Despite the larger man's attempts to hold them back, they all keep trying to push through to reach the car. They keep asking her questions about the Sword King's match today, and even accuse her of antagonizing the Sword King with her prior statements. And the scene starts to get incredibly overwhelming for Seiya, who is still trying to process the entire thing. Seiya covers her face as the reporters press their cameras to the car door, hoping to get a peek of her. Because of that, she doesn't notice the subtle smirk on her friend's face as she pretends to comfort the distressed girl. Behind them, an angry voice calmly calls out to them as Jihan approaches. Then he uses force to push all the reporters away and create a comfortable space for himself to reach the car. The reporters are still relentless, and they accuse Jihan of laying his hands on innocent reporters who are just trying to do their jobs. They even accuse him of not caring about his public opinion. On the contrary, though, he really cares about his public image. The enraged look on his face is enough to shut the reporters up and force them to look away. And he reminds them that they should be grateful, where Seiya is still covering her face in distress and kindly tells her that they should go home. As the two of them leave the car, Jihan takes a moment to thank the driver for trying to protect her. Then he walks away from the car, as he soon wishes the two of them goodbye. Once they are far enough from earshot, Kizu bursts into laughter that she almost couldn't hold back during the whole ordeal. The other reporters notice her as she laughs. She is the daughter of the owner of South Korea's #1 media outlet. Meanwhile, Ryuhei goes on public television once again, claiming that he doesn't have a daughter. He abandoned his past and came to Japan, and he says that if he has something that can be called a daughter, then she is nothing to him. Now that the big interview that caused this huge fuss, and Jihan can barely hold back his anger at his former brother-in-law, is acting towards his only child. Despite his anger, though, he's more worried about Seiya. Suddenly, though, Seiya calls out to him and asks if he remembers the promise he made, to listen to any request of hers. The promise was made when she decided that she would help him find the Shadow Queen. She thinks it's time that he fulfills that promise, because she thinks that she has found a shadow. After lots of searching, Jihan's eyes widen as Seiya pulls out her phone and shows him a video that she found, which reveals the Shadow Queen's identity. Oh, true. And that's all we have time for. Jihan has a lot on his plate going forward. But it looks like Seiya is strong enough to not just handle herself, but also help him out. How is the discovery of the Shadow Queen going to change the course of the story? We just have to wait to find out.